G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute. Today I'm joined by Algared. How you doing, old man?
Fairly well, tired, but that's nothing new for us, is it?
No, not at all.
And we're joined by the voice in the void,
which is Piggles. How you doing, mate?
Hello.
Yeah, so we're going to be watching IC today. We're going to be looking at the Q&A for the Myst Expanse. And we're going to be taking your questions. And I don't know, we're going to talk about a few other little things as well, like what Twitch is doing. I got some new headphones. We're going to talk about a few things. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what you guys are doing. Obviously, the Expanse, we did a refining episode actually on the Expanse, which they had a lot of fruit. Which is interesting, but we'll talk about that in an episode as well. But how have you guys been this week? So, Piggles, what have you been up to? Tell us what you've been up to this week.
Work.
Descriptive as hell.
Solid
Oh, you
work,
can't. Oh, you can't.
else.
Oh, that's right. You can't talk about your work. I just remembered. All right, Piggles, what have you been doing? Oh, sorry, Algared, what have you been doing?
Just school. So, being playing teacher is probably the best way to describe it. Most of our kids have been away, so on camp, so it's been doing a lot of covers. So it's been, for me, it's been great because I've got to see senior students again and students I taught a few years ago and engage with them again in a classroom rather than just occasionally see them. So that's been nice, but yeah, start of term, so after Easter break, but yeah, that's about it.
Welcome, Starjump. Nice to see you, buddy. And Blamesmith. When are you streaming again? You lied to me, Starjump. You said last week you were going to stream, and you didn't stream. I was let down. Hopefully it happens today. Hopefully.
He's a slacker.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Checking on your network.
Oh. What are you doing, Howard? You hot micing?
I think we should.
I think he's going to watch the live stream, and it's our own voices coming back.
I was watching the live stream and forgot that I had my...
old man and tech. Oh. They don't mix.
Old man yells at cloud.
I'll just say shut up, Execute. That's what I'll say.
Oh dear. Well, I know tech issues probably tonight. Okay, cool. Well, I'll be looking forward to it, Starjump. We'll watch that as well. So we're going to wait till a few people rock up, and then we're going to kick it over to the browser. We're going to go through ISC. It's been out for a couple of hours, so I'm sure some of you have already watched it already. Looks like it's about salvage from what I can tell, like the removing of the skins of the ships. And there goes my phone. But yeah. And then, oh wait, I got to turn on the bot. I better do that, or we won't be able to take the questions. Hang on.
What was that about, old man?
Yeah, shut up. Shut up, Algared, as you told me to do. Yeah. All right. So the bot, bot is up and /start and start. All right. Bot is going. There we go. So we can take your questions now.
And now you put your questions. We'll see them in Discord.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah.
Probably the other big thing we did is we actually realised we've been saying for the last few weeks. I think it's easy, oh, join us on YouTube membership. And we realised
we hadn't turned it on.
We hadn't turned it on, so that is available, and I think you've got the option to do the super share things, and
so
that will put your questions up the top. So we'll
super chats they're called. Super chats are on today for the first time. Yeah, YouTube membership is
actually
working.
Functioning now.
We thought they were all on, but they weren't.
Yep.
So yeah, but anyway.
All right. Shows our errors.
Anything you want to talk about, Piggles? Just kick us off. You got anything you want to share, or you're just going to be all quiet and awkward?
I'm going to be like super quiet and awkward until someone says something to me.
What have you been working? You've been working any more on that mod stuff? Because you were working on like a model viewer. To take models out of the game, yeah?
That's not me. That's actually one of the other guys in the modding community. I've been mostly documenting a bunch of file format stuff as a kind of prerequisite for some other stuff that I've got ideas for, but I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to do. But it's nice to have that documented information because I'll end up needing it eventually anyway.
Just realized something that I'm trying to fix on the fly, so bear with me. It's fixed. There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so have you watched what Grimm's been doing? Like him and Starlight are about to bring out that fleet viewer. They've got
no, I've been like totally disconnected from the community for a good few weeks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So how far away would you say you're from finishing, Grim? Because I know you're down. I think you told me the other day you're down to the last 2 ships, if I was not mistaken. So and there's like 150 ships, so they're getting there, very close to the finish. But yeah, I've talked to the Maga about doing a show or a live stream or something like that. Help them kick that off when it gets started.
Hey, Alan. Hey, Christ Talking. Lovely to see you guys. Welcome.
So yeah. Just waiting for a few more people to rock up, and then we'll kick off. Maybe we can look at the Expanse, because the Expanse has been out for a few days. So I'll flick it over, and we'll have a look at the browser, and we'll go through it. So we kind of went through this last week a little bit about what the questions were that were there, and there wasn't the best set of questions.
Some of the questions didn't seem to be as interesting as others.
2 seconds. So, Grim just said, well, as of today, we are done with all the ships now. It's being programmed, but mostly that is close to done. Oh, that's really good to hear. Yeah, that's really good. Oh, good. I hope it goes well coming out, because I think it's going to go gangbusters. I know me and Algared are looking at change into FMF for it, so yeah. And especially...
And g'day, Lonix. Lovely to see you. Our day is just beginning. So...
I have to allow that message because it's too funny not to. Read what TJ Frost just said. Oh, that makes my day. That's so good. Yeah.
Dear me.
Yeah, I think Algared would. He would blush.
Oh my.
Yes.
Oh my.
So yeah, was there any questions here that really stood out?
I think TJ, the question is, will your girlfriend slap me in the face when I do it?
Yeah.
And if so, no.
Yeah, there you go. So what are the benefits of using Refinership compared to station-based refinery? The most ambitious benefit is you can refine on site, meaning you won't have to take long trips to a station. Another benefit is that on-ship refining process is planned to take less time than a station. You will have full control of the process. You're able to, unaffected by the refinery station's occupation level and being used by other players. When I actually talked to the professional people after they read this, the thing that they took away from this whole Q&A was that there'll be a passive process that's almost like a station that you can do, that's like, if you know the recipe, you can just follow it, but it'll take longer, but it's more stable, more controlled, and the outcome is, it's going to be what you want it to be. But then they also said you can do it faster actively, but it's a little bit more turbulent, but you can also discover things that you would normally not discover. So it's like real life, where a lot of things have been found by accident and stuff like that. So they could actually program things in that if someone absolutely just hits on, they'll discover like a new element or
and they seem to go into that the fourth question where they talk about the mini game. There'll be a mini game, and they kind of expand on that a bit more, I think. Yeah. In the questions.
Yeah. So yeah, this next question kind of goes into that. Then the one after that, will Expanse have safe storage for volatile? And it doesn't, which we assume, but it does also confirm that one of the things we took away from here was the bigger ships. Like, so seeing how you got like the Orion, where it has a refinery, and the Starfarer, it has a refinery. They can take in that a volatile and at least stop that volatile process. So again, if an Orion is grabbing a whole bunch of quantanium, it doesn't matter, because it'll just quickly chuck it into one of the refineries and just nerf that in the butt. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think the big thing that came out from that is, from my perspective, is that and it's one of the things we've picked up in the past with our starter industry ships, is a small storage space. So even though it's got 6 refineries, the fact that it's only got such a limited storage amount, the amount of quantanium you could do in one hit is going to be limited or smaller. So, and I think that will have an impact. So.
Yeah, one of the more interesting things about refining, and I'm probably giving a little bit away here, but it appears to be the bigger the ship is, the better it's going to be. And I won't give it completely away, but because we've recorded an episode yesterday with the professional guys, and that was the takeaway. After they explained everything to me, that was the takeaway. Like, this is the first refinery ship, but it's probably the worst. And that's not to say it's bad, it's just probably the worst of those 4. So yeah, but refining is actually a very key cornerstone of this game, and I was kind of surprised.
And yet, in a sense, while it might be the worst refining ship, if you're doing a small mining operation, this is actually the ship you'd want to have along, because having a larger one would just be a waste of resources. So it's not really, there are, when you say worse, you've got to we've always got to look at things in terms of context, haven't we?
So to clarify then, I'm talking from bang for buck perspective.
Yeah.
You're better off just to get the big one and earn down, and you'll have everything underneath it. And that's not to say you actually need to buy the top one. If you've already got a ship of any description that's bigger than it, you can just instantly earn this in game with that said bigger ship. It doesn't have to be a refining bigger ship, obviously. But yeah, if you go through this, go ahead.
I suppose the other thing that we often say when we're talking the biggest ship, it's not just get the biggest ship that's out there. It's get the biggest ship that you are comfortable and feel able to run and work with. If you know you're not going to be running around with 30 people, then having a javelin is nuts.
Yeah.
So it is always, tailor that biggest ship to your.
Ooh, I really want to take a thumbnail of Algared because that was a weird ass face. But he'll be back in a second. This is what always happens to him.
Situation.
He's back. You're back, Algared. You dropped for about 10 seconds. So do you want to say that again?
The camera had froze and it hadn't.
Do you want to say that again then? What you just said?
You're
talking about the refining process.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the larger ships, as we always say, you want to go largest that you can get that's comfortable for you. So if you know you're never going to be running around with 30 odd people, then buying yourself a javelin is nuts. Yeah. So when we're saying go big, it's go the biggest that you are comfortable with or know that you'll be able to crew on a regular basis, and that will give you the ability to then earn those other ships that you want down the line a lot easier. So I think that's what I was saying.
Yep. I'm seeing some questions there that I don't want to answer because I know the refining episode is a thing, but that's fine.
Since I wasn't there for the refining one, maybe I could try and have a go at what I think, and then see how they line up with the refining one, and give a bit of teaser for the refining episode.
If you want. So yeah, well, when we go through those, you can answer most of them. Then I'll try and skirt around them. So yeah, I did find it interesting how it talks about like minerals, gas, and metals. So it's literally confirmed that minerals and gases and metals are a thing.
Yep.
So this is your solid mining, this is your gas mining, and this is your salvage. So yeah, very clearly there's a core column of refining and 3 different careers, I think you could call it, are feeding into refining, which is a really big takeaway for me from this Q&A. I was actually surprised where it's going to, but the funny thing is, just knowing that and backtracking stuff, some of the stuff that came out of that refining episode was nuts because, well, let's just put it this way. One of the big takeaway for me was there's an episode that we're working on that's along the lines at the moment of something like 9 ships you never knew existed. That is something that we're working on at the moment. So
the other thing that, like, when they talked metals, we'd assumed that there'd be a process of refining scraps years ago, and so that was nice to have that confirmed. The thing that surprised me was the fact that there's no liquid refining.
I beg to differ.
And I know you're kind of tied that in with gas because
no, I don't want to talk about it because it's in the episode. But trust me, as far as I can tell, there is a process before and after. So there's like a setup. So to give the example of salvage, I'll just give salvage, but I won't give the others. So if salvage comes in, it'll come in as like, it can come in as literal cubes that are stored by the Vulture as an example, but then it'll have to be shredded or cut up so it can actually be refined. So the step in the middle there is whatever this ship here, obviously the Expanse at the moment doesn't have a way to cut up that process. So it can only take in shredded ore. It can't shred it up itself unless they turn around and tell us that there's some kind of shredder in this this ship. So that might be a limiting factor of the Expanse because it doesn't work with other, like with salvage as well. It might be more towards the ore or more towards the gas side. And so you can actually start to see there will be ships that tailor in different ways because of the processes that they're able to do. That said though, that big tumbler thing, if that also cuts up or as a crusher, because one of the things we talk about in the episode is the crushing of ore. That's the other process. So
well, they do talk about in the processes. I thought one of the things they talked about in the processes was, you might decide to grind or add a certain catalyst or whatever to the process, and that's in a bit of the thing with the player aspect when in answering that minigame question. It really does come down to experimentation, and also that fuel refining stuff that we talked about in the previous episode, where the people who literally got into the refueling aspect just because they wanted to be the makers and refiners of racing fuels.
Yeah. I can't remember which one it was too, but one of these questions talks about cleaning. So I actually think that might be a thing with all cargo. If you're, taking something out, you're putting something in. What was it, purity or something we're talking about? I can't remember the exact.
So you want to purify. You want to purify or purge the sack of what's there, so that you can actually go through the process. So you don't contaminate your refined ore. So just imagine you've refined your ore, you've got 100% quality, you put it in a dirty bag, and the quality is now ruined. It's now only 95 or 99%. It's a bit like science experiments. If your test tube's dirty, you could have impurities that skew your experiment.
I did find this one kind of interesting because I honestly, if you look at the model, it doesn't have the extra saddlebags. So saying that it actually does have at least one extra saddlebag was kind of interesting. But that now puts it in line with the the prospector, because the prospector used to have 2 spare, but it's now only got 1. So it's kind of interesting.
I think that kind of puts it shows they're following that same pattern. So prospector, mole, and expanse all use that same bag system of spare bags, filling up the bag, dropping it off, having something take it.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. It ties it in. I expect you'll see all of those bags will again be compatible with the grid on a hull, so you'll be able to pick them up in a hull C and take them off to market.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly when that episode's coming out, but we recorded it yesterday. But I took a lot away from it. We were talking about, as the conversation goes on, one of the things we talk about is all the different professions it's going to touch, and I think we hit about 6 or 7 different professions. It was crazy. It even got into bounty hunting. How do you connect refining with bounty hunting? You'll have to watch and see, but it actually did. That's how kind of crazy it was. Just some really crazy things, and you could see the science gameplay in there. You could see, it was crazy. I'm actually kind of impressed how simple yet complicated and deep it is. Kind of like chess, if you know what I mean. Years to learn.
I'm still surprised that the refinery on the Odyssey can't refine water, can't break water down into hydrogen, oxygen, which is where I was thinking in terms of liquid, because they're the 2 elements we use all the time: oxygen for our ships to keep us alive, and hydrogen to keep us flying. So,
as I was saying, simple to learn, and but it's hard to master, and that's really important. Piggles, what's your thoughts on the Expanse after reading the Q&A?
I still think it's ugly and don't like it, but it's nice to actually know a bit more information about it.
That's all good. What are your favorite types of ships, Piggles? Just so we know when to shit on those when they turn up. I like ships that look cool and they go zoom. Oh, that's right. You're an Origin fanboy.
He's an Origin
preferably a bit of pew pew as well.
So that kind of tells you everything you need to know about Piggles. He likes junk, space junk. That's it. All right then. All right. I think we'll kick it over to the ISC now. I've got to switch it around so Algared can hear. Swear. Give me a second. Application.
Otherwise, I have a 5-second lag and can't.
Yep. It's fine. All right. Switching you over now, Algared. There we go.
Yep.
Here we go.
Hey y'all, greetings from sunny United Kingdom. It's a time of change at the moment as I relocate from Los Angeles and our Winslow and Frankfurt offices prepare their move into the new digs over the next coming months. That means that this quarter of ISC may be a little different, a little more run and gun than usual, recording from wherever we can week to week, whether that's our old Winslow office you're already familiar with, sticking our heads into the currently under construction new offices here in Manchester, or even my new flat that's currently filled with half-constructed IKEA furniture. Yes, it's an exciting time for ISC and for Cloud Imperium Games as a whole as we continue to grow. So please, pardon our dust this quarter as we continue our look inside of Star Citizen's continuing development. And we're going to start things off this new quarter and this new year of the show with a brief look at a presentation given recently by our own Forrest Steffen to directors, detailing an evolution of our wear and biome systems we want to put forward into development later this year.
Greetings all, Forrest here. Some of you may know this. I love playing Star Citizen. I play it on Fridays. And I was running around Microtech when I realized there was a bit of a problem. There were some major inconsistencies between the characters, the weapons, and the environment in regards to the biome accumulation. So I tried to come up with a solution, and then I put together a presentation. Because before we decide to work on a feature of any kind, it is important to make certain we're all on the same page. So today, I'm going to share with you some of those ideas from the presentation I recently gave to CR and other directors before any of the work had started. Now, disclaimer, Jared said you'd find it interesting. So if it's not, blame him. So for those of you who don't know, biome is weather and accumulation is the effect that that weather has on the materials. So if a character walks into a biome, that character's shader will reflect the weather. Simply put, if you walk out in the rain, you're gonna get wet.
Pretty cool though, to be honest.
You jump in mud
Right
puddles.
now, when you play the game,
Sorry, Algared.
If you jump in mud puddles, you'll get muddy.
Yeah. Well, I kind of think of games now. The only time I can really think of it is like when you play like Uncharted and stuff. Like when you swim through water, you get wet. But I'm trying to think of. There's not many other games I don't think of that go to that level of detail. Pickles, is there any that you know of?
I mean, the vast majority of newer games tend to do something like that, and you can usually do it just by slowly raising the effect of a shader on whatever you want to apply it to, and then once you're done, you can slowly bring it back down again to sort of say, oh, you're drying out and things like that. So computationally, it's actually not that expensive to do. So it's usually quite a good idea because it just adds that little bit of extra detail, which is why lots of newer games tend to implement something like that.
Yeah, and I could see it, as seems to be hinted by the title of the show, that it also leads into the wear and tear of your, the more you're out there, the more your gear gets dirty, but the more it also gets worn out and shows damage. And so it gives you that chance to show someone who's been stranded on a planet for years with another change of clothing is going to look like a dog's breakfast compared to someone who just arrived. So it'll be quite nice to see. If it's going down that way, I'll have to wait and see.
There's only a single texture handling all accumulation effects per asset. So my pitch to Chris was, let's make it procedural. How we did this was we used Substance Designer to automate any textures needed for any biome required. This alleviated all labor off the artists. So look, when you have a bunch of people creating the same thing, you're going to have different results. Because we all see things differently, doing this procedurally solves the visual inconsistencies of biome accumulation. And of course, with graphic support, it's going to be even better. All in all, the reason this is so important to me is it gives us that immersive planet-side experience while playing the game on my Friday nights.
Wear and biome accumulation are essential elements in creating a universe that feels simultaneously alive and lived in, with its expected and anticipated effects on players, buildings, and vehicles alike. And up next, the teams have been busy while we were away, so let's check in with the AI and EU sandbox teams in this week's Sprint Report. To get things started this week, let's jump into the world of AI with some sprint updates from a variety of tasks the team is tackling for both Star Citizen and Squadron 42. Up first is the collision resolver. Now, currently in the claustrophobic corridors of a ship or station, NPCs will often have no collision so that they can get to where they're going relatively unimpeded. But nobody wants characters just walking through other characters. So the collision resolver is a new system currently in development that will temporarily shrink the physics bubble of AI and change to the relevant animations, allowing them to pass through many situations they currently cannot. In addition, missions that require AI to come...
It's a nice little feature, but I would have liked to have seen some kind of animation too. You know, like his...
He did mention that it would trigger an animation.
Yeah. I guess that's just in...
and it is literally just testing it.
Like a brushing past someone kind of thing, but usually stuff like that's the last thing you do.
Yeah.
Down from orbit and either deliver or pick up the player or goods often follow the terrain just a little too precisely, bouncing needlessly up and down over obstacles far, far below it, making it look, well, just janky as heck. So the AI flight path system is getting new features that allow for both local and look-ahead searches to determine not just safe altitudes that they can reach their destinations with, but also fly a more smooth and natural motion than ever before. This system can also potentially be used to allow NPCs to determine their own landing spots, using many of the same size and shape and availability judgments the players themselves have to use. And that's pretty cool. The team is also working to improve downstate reactions, as you can see here, where a group of actors discovers a fallen body. In this case, they might just rush over, investigate, and then fan out as seen here. Or perhaps they'll slowly approach with one person investigating while another stays behind to provide cover. And for anyone that's ever done the underground facility mission, improved response times for when their investigation of a fallen comrade is interrupted by an uncautious player. The AI content folks have also recently completed a sprint on a variety of usables such as these vending machines, where AI will ponder their selections, use their Mobiglass to complete the purchase, and even get frustrated when it doesn't work out. And then you can see here the entire carbonated refreshment flow behavior, where we get our drink, return to our table, consume our drink, and then dispose of it in the receptacle where it can be properly despawned to preserve server performance. Yay! And before we move on, let's go back to that failed reaction.
Sorry, say again?
There'll be a job for people picking up the rubbish and making sure it goes in the bin so it can be despawned.
I'm noticing they built an entire machine on the side of the vending machines too, so there's probably an actual vending machine overhaul coming.
From before and see if we can really get inside the head of our AI in this exact moment. All right, let's see. Think I'll go for a peach flavor today. Make my payment. Oi, what gives? Hello, Mr. Machine Man. Oi, bruv, give me my peaches and prawn delight. That ain't right. Hey, wakey wakey. I ain't got time for this. Well, maybe just a few minutes more. Hello. Oi, this thing is really fastened in there, isn't it? Doesn't move an inch. You know, back in my day, we used to move these things all over the standing system. You're lucky you're not physicalized, bruv. All right, moving along. Let's check in with the EU Sandbox team and their continuing work fleshing out the derelict outposts to be found on the surface of Pyro's planets and moons. What you're seeing here is a white box traversal test, the kind of work often done by level designers to flesh out aspects of the intended gameplay experience before artists come in and finish it out visually. And as you can see here, these derelict outposts are intended to be canvases to a variety of mission types and emergent opportunities, storytelling possibilities, and given that it's Pyro, maybe even some unavoidable PvP firefight eventualities. And in a
Kind of surprised how bendy the terrain was there at the, yeah, very unusual.
addition to working on the colonialism outposts, the EU Sandbox 01 team are also exploring new gameplay opportunities out in the farthest reaches of the upcoming Pyro system. What you're seeing here is some early pre-production work on larger scale points of interest to be explored throughout the system, utilizing debris from capital ships, or in this case, defunct, damaged, or destroyed space stations from days gone past. The upcoming Pyro system is intended to be rich with a history more violent and conflicted than the Stanton system you're already familiar with, and without the efforts of megacorporations like ArcCorp, Hurston, Microtech, and Crusader keeping things relatively nice and tidy. That means a variety of husks, relics, and otherwise aging locations to discover from the near.
I'd love it to be something like that. You can come up and there are rooms in that station that are still like different sections, so you can come up through like a skeleton like that and like actually land an EVA out and go in, and there's like a little mission there or something like that, or a drop-off point, or you know with some of the drug missions, like there's little drop-off points,
Kind of like the old Kovalex station.
Yeah, but more like you know how the Kovalex station's like still a solid station, like it's broken off, like there's a whole section that's been broken off and it's just like one little room that has an airlock that's still active or something like that. So it's like one station that's been broken into like 10 different pieces and you can explore it all over. It could be really cool.
Nearly 500 years of space travel and exploration that have occurred in this lawless frontier. This also includes variations with pre-existing pathing solutions intended to guide players safely to their destination through a damaging or otherwise dangerous array of obstacles, not unlike the famous coil from Squadron 42. Yeah, they may be lawless out here, but nobody wants to die unnecessarily speeding through an array of microasteroids or by losing hull integrity to corrosive agents and the like when making their way from one outpost to another. They're outlaws.
They just confirmed corrosive agents.
Yeah,
So-
I also think that what he was saying there also feeds into racing. But yep, corrosive agents.
I'm
that'll be
thinking more about what Badger said about the different ammo types of the Perseus, like that could be a thing.
But nobody likes a bad road trip. And beyond just being a cool place to explore visually, it's important these points of interest provide gameplay opportunities
Very dark.
to players within. As the mission system spawns its myriad of mission types to explore, collect, attack, rescue, salvage, repair, and more, we also want to create environments that provide compelling reasons to leave your larger ships at the outskirts, safe from the dangers within, where a smaller craft would be perhaps a more tactically sound solution. And if you're asking yourself, what the heck is this place? We're going to talk more about what you're seeing here later in the year. So what did we learn this week? Well, we got a
Sorry.
the mind's on Pyro. Go talk to a god.
glimpse at the earliest stages of feature iteration with a look at the exact same kinds of presentations given internally to directors to scope out work for the months ahead. That the AI team continues to push the everyday behaviors of NPCs in naturalistic ways in their continuing efforts to create an immersive experience for all players. And that traveling through space looks to get just a little more involved and potentially a lot more dangerous as we continue along with our path to Pyro. That does it for us this week. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you all next week.
Well, that was no, I'll take that one, Algared. I think it was a little.
I didn't mind it. It was interesting.
okay.
It was nice. It was nice to see the way in which Forrest was wanting to make those changes. I think the biggest thing or selling point to the board was it takes less time.
Mm.
If we make it procedural and make the procedural aspect really well, it means it's going to make it easier on artists to do the job.
I'm gonna be
And
honest.
that's always a good thing.
I assumed it was procedural until he said differently, because I just assumed,
Yeah.
being all those textures and all the other stuff being procedural, I just figured it was taken from something else and copied over. So I'm kind of surprised to hear that it wasn't, but now it is. Yeah, okay, that makes so much more sense, because like manually doing everyone by hand seems just a little bit too much work for me.
The other thing is what he pointed out was the fact that when you get different people doing the same type of job, you're going to get different flavors, and that's going to make things look at times jarring. They're not going to be accumulating in the same manner, and maybe you do want that. Maybe you do want your muds to accumulate in a different manner than your frosts or your ice, or your water to have a different effect, and so maybe that is a case against doing it procedurally. But on the other side, if you can do it procedurally and then do your artist touch-ups like they do with the stations, then that gives you that chance to keep things looking the same but also different.
Yeah, and obviously, the other part of the system, though, if it's procedural, is like just gonna like throw it out there. Say they build some kind of acid environment, and might be getting acid on you. So that's just an effect that you wouldn't have on any other planet. So once that system's there, it's just easier to roll new shit out, because you can just add it and it kind of goes. The other thing is you could also be using it in like almost like damage from guns as well. You know what I mean? So if you're getting, say you got to attack with an acid weapon, they could steal effects from that acid biome for the damage if they ever did something like that.
Hey, Jack Raven, thank you so much.
Oh, super chat. You guys rock. Thanks. That's our first super chat ever.
Yeah, woohoo!
Thanks, Jack.
That's a coffee. That supplies me with a coffee. Yay!
All right. So we'll move on to questions.
We do have a few from last week. We did say we would deal with this week as well.
So those last 5 there are the ones you're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. We'll start with those then. I'll let you read them out.
Right. So from last week, Ostentatious had a question. He said, if a prospector in the Odyssey means they're tied together somehow, what does that mean for a prospector in a Kraken in the Kraken commercial?
Actually, Algared, I think we answered these, because I remember answering that one specifically.
Do you?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I said, by the very definition, does that mean there's a tie between the Vanguard and the Kraken in the commercial? And is there a tie between the Prospector and the Vanguard? No. So it's just
Right.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Should I switch from? I'm just gonna read the last one. Should I switch from the Polaris to the Orion? No. Yeah, we answered all those, Algared. We
Okay.
did those as rapid fires. So we're actually under Jason Sareth, because we already answered TJ Frost's one. So
Right.
would
If he
you?
doesn't slap me, the answer was yes.
Yes. Would you agree with the station refining doesn't actually need any advantages beside volume and accessibility? Would you agree that the station refining doesn't actually need any advantages beside volume and accessibility?
No, it does give a lot of advantage. In a Q&A, they said that you can't actually log off in your starter process in your ship and then log off, because it will reset it, or you'll lose the refined stuff. So on a station, you take it back, you set up the process. It'll take 2 days. You can log off, and 2 days later it's there. On your ship, it won't be. So that's one. Pardon me. One advantage that the station refining has. Station refining will also enable you to do greater volumes rather than the smaller of quantity you can do on your ship. But the advantage is ship refining will be quicker. It'll enable you to experiment with different processes and improve possibly the yield, or even this type of stuff, or even stuff it up and ruin it.
I think Bland Smith sent us £1, but he didn't send a message. Thanks, Bland Smith.
Thank you, Bland.
He just said that works in the next message. Yes, it does. Thanks for the test. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks for the tip.
So yeah, I actually think there's kind of more negative to the stations, because I think the station's kind of like the standard refining process. That's kind of why we've got it now. And I think you kind of, because you have to go to it, they've also mentioned other people using the station will slow down. It's something that I kind of don't want to say because it's going to give that whole episode away, but we haven't even started talking about multi-stage processing, or, like going, like, it's not, you look at Quantanium, it's just one process, but there could very well be things that take multiple stages, just like in real life. And that was one of the things I learned talking to the refining and manufacturing people, that the higher-end refinery ships are probably going to be able to do these multi-stage processes, where the lower ones, like the Expanse, they can't, because they've only got 6 refineries, so they're limited in the number of stages they can do.
But also looking at that if you think about in terms of what people have really got on board with the staff ferrers back in the day, was the fact that they wanted to be doing processing and making different grades of racing fuel. So Altama Enterprises, with Segelian, that's his whole idea, was to create those different fuels for racing and and specialize in that. And so that ties in with that whole process. And that's something that CIG had said they wanted to do way back then. Like, I can't remember how long ago, it's so long. But that is the whole thing that Segelian wanted to do. And it's nice to see that they're actually saying this is a type of thing that the refining processes will enable you to do. But
and those recipes will have to either be discovered or earned through reputation or stuff like that. And experimentation, while it might lose you something, it might also get you huge ass gains. Because if you get a recipe out of it that no one else has got, that's like almost licensed to print money. So
then you keep it secret, keep it safe, and make lots of money.
And that's clearly going into the science domain as well, with the kind of experimentation and stuff. So science is going to be more broader than I thought it was going to be. That was also my other takeaway from.
Yeah, because one of the key things, like just thinking back to the our favorite ship, the Endeavour, one of the components you can get, one of the modules you can get, that is a computer that actually is specifically for crunching numbers and doing, and giving those computations that you want to when you're working out your problems. So greater computing power is going to be really key for doing that type of stuff. The other thing with the Expanse is,
I was just going to say, the Endeavour actually came up quite a bit in the refining conversation. You'll be surprised. But
there you go.
Yeah.
The other thing I did notice with the Expanse Q&A is they also said that apart from experimenting, you can actually set your standard processing and just, but if you're doing that and just have it set on automated processing, you're going to be losing, I think, that ability to, it'll do the job, but you're not going to make that same profit margin you could possibly make when you're experimenting.
It was about speed. It was really about speed, and the profit margin will be larger, but you're also more inclined to make mistakes because you're doing it manually. Where if you kind of turn it on, it's just kind of sitting there doing its thing. Where if you're playing with it, it's more turmoil, more chaotic and stuff.
I could see if you're doing a deal with someone on the mining field, you say, look, I've got this process, I'll run this process, bang. But then when you're experimenting, you're off by yourself doing, getting your grades and experimenting and toying around with it and trying to see what works and what doesn't.
The other way I look at it though is imagine it's like different knobs that you're turning for heat and different catalysts and all stuff. If you're following the recipe though, but you're actively doing it, that'll still be faster than just sitting there letting it do it. But so as long as you're sitting there watching it, it'll still go faster. And we haven't got into things like moving impurities and stuff like that, because we were even talking about, look, could there be a scooping gameplay, like actually, removing stuff off the top,
taking the slag off
and stuff like that. So, and that's not going to be for every single and it could be that deep that every single manufacturing process is its own little, indigestion mini game. So, like one process might need a lot of heat, where another one needs cold, and stuff like that.
Well, they certainly passed into that as well in terms of just the fuel access that you'd need on your ship, which they used as an excuse as to why the Expanse has a small shield rather than a large shield. Yes, it's got more armor, so it's kind of a bit more tankier, but because of the power that's needed in its refining process, you don't want to have that, and will also have an impact on the fuel that's used. So you can almost say, I need to get some hydrogen. I need to process some hydrogen so I can supply myself.
So I just got a tablet for my indigestion because that was burning. It was going to be quite rather painful.
So what are your thoughts on that, Pickles? Since you're still here.
Sorry.
Totally not here.
Not listening. No, we're asking about the refining process. What do you think about the different ability, the actual refining mini game type of thing, like where it looks like, so you currently go into the station and there's like a list, but it looks like you're going to be able to pick from lists of recipes, but also go out for an experiment and change the dials and do it manually yourself. So there's a automatic and a manual process that you can pick between.
Yeah, I mean that sounds great, because when you get to things like that, as a player, you come to recognize certain things, or like certain patterns, or I know I'm really good at this, and then you can go out and screw the automatic process. I can do this way better and get a way better yield and things like that.
Yep.
So it's interesting, and I like that that's a thing.
But having said that, in answer to the question, I don't think it necessarily means the stations are useless and devoid of value. And the key value there is the fact that if you've got a load and you need to it's going to take a while and you've got to disappear, the station is going to be a safer way to do that, because you can set it running, disappear, come back and get the refined stuff. So that's probably the biggest value there. Shadow Girl has a question for us. She says, so owning the Expanse means 0 mining fees, faster refining, and the ability to be a materials middleman?
Except you got to buy. You can make your own catalysts and stuff, but there might be costs.
If you've got the materials, you'll either have to mine the materials you need to make your catalyst, buy the materials that you need to make the catalyst, the time you've got to use to make your catalysts and other things. So there may not be.
Probably gonna have to pitch in on security fees as well, because only level 1 shields and bit of armor, but yeah, very undefended ship, so to speak.
And it was interesting. Sorry, go on.
The thing is, when you want to start trying to think about 0 fees, you can never really reach that, because no matter how much you try and how much you do, you're always going to end up with some supplier somewhere down the line that you're going to have to pay for something. So it's not that it's becoming free; it's just shifting where you're paying to somewhere else.
Yeah,
and be aware they also talked about the use of hydrogen being used as a fuel. So that may impact how far you can go or what you can do, and the power management aspect will also impact what you're trying to do. So, yes, you may avoid paying those fees to in UEE when you're getting it refined, but there are going to be fees or sinkholes elsewhere, like buying the materials to make your catalyst, or having to buy the fuel that you need, or paying for the security. And one of the things they talked about was, they saw or they hoped to get the thing that groups would get together, and one group would be mining, one group would be refining, then you'd have other people doing other members doing security and flying support, and when you look at that, it's the idea of if you build it, they will come, and it's kind of you start a mining center, and you eventually that will come into a settlement. So I on paper, yes, it does, but in reality, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
W. Allen. Sorry?
I was just saying, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a lot deeper than I expected. Just put it that way.
Which is good. So W. Allen has a question for us. He says, they mentioned crafting. You think that was only for the Expanse or in general? I think in terms of crafting, they're certainly talking about the components, mixing the components that you need. So not necessarily, and it's always the way Chris always talked about crafting is you could make the components, but you couldn't make the big thing. So you could make the bits and pieces, the screws, the bolts, the electronics component aspects that might be needed for a ship, but you couldn't actually build the ship. So there was always an element where they saw there'd be an element of some form of making stuff, but you wouldn't be making you wouldn't be building the full missile or building the ship or building the gun. So I think we'll see that base level crafting or making components we need to pass on there, but I think it'll be a general thing. What are your thoughts on that question, Nick?
I missed the question. I was loading a scene. What was the
about
question?
crafting? Yeah, I saw you were making your character.
What was the question?
So they mentioned crafting, and the question was, do you think that's just for the Expanse, or will be a general form of crafting?
I think crafting is going to be a lot bigger than we thought. Wow, look at that. Nice little service code error.
Yeah, that was the one I got last time.
There was just a PTO update.
Oh yeah,
a minute.
He just did his
like 1 minute ago.
Yeah, I did it. I'll try again though. Verify the files. But yeah, no, I think crafting, when they initially talked about there wasn't going to be any crafting, but I actually think crafting would be a very silly thing to gloss over. Kind of like what you said about we can't make the final product, but I think we can make all the pieces that go into the final product. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we could make shell casing and gunpowder, but we can't put them together, type of thing.
If you go back and have a look at the very early economics document that they put back in, what would have been about 2014. And they showed that they talked about the nodes that you'd have in terms of economy. And there'd be a node for, say, mining nodes or things, and they would provide different things. And we could be involved in those, but we couldn't control the factories that were producing the addresses or those things. But by influencing or cutting off trade, we could actually have an impact on that. So if we shut down one area, another node will open up somewhere else, but it's going to have an impact on that delivery or supply that those bigger places would do.
Yeah.
So I think always crafting was in. It was just not crafting the way we normally think of crafting in MMOs.
Essay's little statement there. 100% essay. That was what I took out of the refining profession thing. What the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I think
it's because there's a PTO update execute.
Yes, but I vertified it. So
but you don't have the update yet. That it's currently being deployed. Yeah.
So I think you're right. SA, it is not tied to cargo effect per se, but going into what is coming with repair and salvage and those things. So,
I think it shows a lot. Because if you kind of think about refining it is a part of the manufacturing process, and so cargo touches how cargo touches almost every ship in the game. Refining is the one that kind of is the start of that manufacturing process, and the thing that really surprised me was just how many things it's going to make and how many things it's going to lead on to. Like, think about every profession, everyone, and how it has something that it needs. So look at medical, how just the repair thing. You know, you've got the what's the Grey Cat multi-tool, all the different attachments for that and all the different things it can do. And then you've got every single every single tool, all that, and every single profession has its own little niche things, so the blast charges for salvage, you can go through every single profession and go, this needs something and it needs to be made. Food is another one. Food might not be refined by a refinery, but won't a cook need oil to cook things? You start to see they're all touching each other. And
if you're taking foods, across the verse, aren't you going to need to package them or freeze dry them or do whatever else to preserve it? So, there's a whole host of just different things where you can put different levels of refining into almost every profession.
It's crazy, and you start to realize they are all interconnected. That was the thing. And I was trying to think of the weirdest professions and then finding connections, and it's like, what the fuck? Because you wouldn't think bounty hunting would connect with refining, but there's a way, and you'll see it in that episode when it comes out. But I was just like, okay, sure. So, all right, next question.
So Jay Warinsky, I hope I said your name right, Jay.
Warjaninsky, yeah, let's call it Warjaninsky. Yeah.
So his question is, with the revelations around the refining game loop, do you think they would change or switch up the refining capabilities of the Odyssey Starfarer? Odyssey/Starfarer.
So excuse me, the refining process on the Starfarer is limited because it is it's basically specializing in fuel. That's why it's only got 3 refineries, and I would expect something like the Orion to be on that lower end as well, because it's generally to stop more likely volatile ores. They don't want it really manufacturing as such. They want it to be
like. Go on.
Yeah, they just don't want it manufacturing and stuff. They kind of want it to turn off those volatile ores, and that's, I don't know how many it'll have, but the Starfarer to me is, again, if you look at fuels, it's only got 3, but that allows it to make it three different fuels at once. As opposed to the Expanse where it's got 6, if they went down that fuel line, they could do 6 different ones.
And I can't remember how many the Odyssey had, but certainly on the internals, it looked like it had 2 refineries rather than.
On the top, it's got 6. Much as well
outside,
from the outside. So I'd just say it's on level with the Expanse.
So it certainly looked like it had 2 on the inside, but how many it actually has. So you might find it's got less, but I don't think it's going to change manufacturing for them. I think their capability is going to be the same. It's just where they put the stored stuff. Does it go straight into the tank? Does it go elsewhere? I think I'd put the Starfarer above the Odyssey in terms of what it can do, because it does have those storage tanks, whereas the Odyssey's just got its fuel tanks. So
I would take everything I saw on the Odyssey with a grain of salt until it's out, because they've specifically said all it can do is refine Quantanium. It can't do anything else. They've said that. If they change that, that's totally fine. But to be honest, why wouldn't they say that in the beginning? Because it would sell more ships, not less. So subject to change. I'll leave it at that. But the Odyssey at the moment, from everything we've said, is those storage containers are for reading. You know, they like it even says in the Expanse, like you analyze the material before you refine it. That is essentially what that Odyssey is doing. It's just reading what materials it collected and going, right, so this has this area has a shit ton of gold. So much so that you could actually build a whole mining base here with the Pioneer and mine it for years. So we'll put a land claim down and sell that shit and sell that information. It's an information gatherer. That's what makes it an explorer.
To me, that makes perfect sense. And again, the frustration for me is, why didn't they say that? They'd have sold more ships.
Because they don't know how to market their own shit. It feels like they're just chucking it up in the air and going, "Oh, that's cool. That'll sell for 1,000. This one hit the floor first, so this sells for $5." Like, it's just random.
And in a sense, I can see it coming back to the types of things that Sandy was talking about with us the other day, in terms of you can market things, but it's hard if you don't know what it is going to be down the track.
Yeah.
And how do you do that when you have no idea what the future is for it? And it's...
Yeah. That was definitely one of the biggest things from that interview, actually, was that they took so long to find a marketing person. I just thought this guy came in and his resume looks sick and there we go. Like, that's what I thought, but it was completely different. She spent what 4 years, I think, almost looking for someone. So
Chris,
that blew my
6
mind.
Months.
Yeah, that blew my mind.
I'll give you 6 months, Chris, until I find someone for you.
Yeah, and she was there for 7 years.
So that was a bit of an eye opener in that sense. It was never a plan that Sandy would be there all the time. It was just, I'm gonna do this and help you out. Because that way, if I stuff it up, at least our family's not screwed up in terms of left wanting it because of someone else. It's on us, not someone else.
So that question was that question from Hellhawk, the one that you just asked?
No, that was from Jay Warinsky.
So is that the next one where it says, with the mention
the next one is Hellhawk.
Yeah, with the mention of crafting, do you feel like we would see a dedicated manufacturing ship or factories on planets? You are ruining my episode, sir, but the high-end refinery ships, I think they are the manufacturing ships. That is why we're seeing the Expanse first. Because traditionally, the release schedule has kind of been capital, small, then the medium, large, because that's the best order. But clearly, the bigger the refinery ships, the more refineries, the more processes, the more manufacturing it can do, the more layers of steps it can do. I honestly think the order we'll see the Refinerships come out is just small, medium, large, capital. Because the bigger it gets, the better it's going to be. There may be some little side steps to that, like one's better at gas or one's better at solids, but generalistically speaking, that was the really big takeaway from the multi-stage processing of that episode. You've ruined the entire episode, but that's fine. There's only, 65 people here.
But I think the other thing is with those large ships, again, I don't think they're going to be building ships or building missiles, but they'll certainly be, the manufacturer will be making sure you've got the right materials to be able to repair that wing.
Yeah.
Or
it'll still probably just be materials. So, right, rather than making a bolt, it'll be making the metal for that bolt, right? Or man, I've gone so far down the rabbit hole in this refining episode, I might as well keep going. One of the examples in the episode they give is crude oil, right? And crude oil currently in the real world is made into about 8 different things, but each of those 8 things have multi-stage processing. So you do that, and I'm just taking that as an example, right? So I'm not saying it's a real thing, but it is highly likely that's how they're going to go down. So if you look at an Expanse, it's only got 6 refineries, so it can't even do crude oil, right? So if you have a ship like the next step up that's got 8, and then the next one after that's got 12, and the next one after that's got 16. And I'm taking small baby steps, but if you get to say something that's got like 64 refineries, and I'm not saying that that's a thing, but you could actually see how crude oil can come in, it breaks into 8 pieces, and then they all break into 8 pieces or whatever. You can start to see that you are going to need some pretty insane number of refineries to get all those levels of processes done. You know,
having said that, even though say you're looking at oil that breaks into 8 parts or 7 parts, you could refine that in your Expanse, but you'd have to choose 2 of those parts you're going to dump. And so it would be.
Wait, hang on. Just the next part I'd add to that is yes, you could dump, right? So you're only going after the highest quality, or you could just hold them and very slowly rotate them all around. So yes, it is possible.
Put 2 in your storage bags and do that. So again, it's that whole
and
time
the cleaning of the bags thing really comes in because like, oh well, I just had a bit of sludge in here and now I want to put some of the oil in here. Oh well, shit! Now I got to clean out. You see what I mean? So it's all like
I got to purge that bag so I can I don't contaminate the stuff I've just done.
Yeah. So so you could do it with a fleet of Expanses, So one of the interesting things that I saw is it does scale sideways, but then the next question I have is, well, if I have 2 Expanses and whatever the ship above is, so what we've been nicknaming it the Argo Heat, just for laughs, because it's got to be 4 letters long, because you know you got the mole, the raft, so we just made it the Heat, but and it's more likely to be Argo because of the mole, but I digress. But how many refineries would that actually have, and how much does it need to have to kind of come up to be more valuable than say just having 2 Expanses? And that's an interesting question to answer.
And it could even be something similar to the difference between the prospector and the mole. Like the mole is definitely better than, I think, 2 prospectors if you've got 2 people, but
because it's got physically larger lasers. And it's got 3 people. So the other question we don't have answers to is, are there physically larger refineries? Because at the moment, the refineries all seem to be the same size. But here I'll throw this back at you too. The Starfarer's refineries, it says it has 3, but there's 2 giant containers that are the refineries. So does it have 3 in each one? Like the little questions like that. And then they've taken those refineries and they've put those in the Odyssey. But then on top of the Odyssey, they've got 6 refineries. So it's like, what?
Are those things on the top, the outside, are they just greebles? Are they just the way they're showing these refineries? So but
it's a bit tricky. So
interesting days. Okay, so we've got another question from Jay.
Yep.
Jay asks us, is it possible that in the future fauna will engage in career game loops like pyro crabs, surface mining for players' loot benefits?
Part of security, wouldn't it be part of hiring a hunter to get rid of the animals?
Yeah, look.
Yeah, I see that 100%.
They've talked about the whales on Stanton being able to be on Crusader being able to be hunted or viewed for their
illegal manufacturing in your Expanse refinery of the tusks of some rare elephant or whatever. You know, just to give you a vague idea.
They talked about there'd be materials or minerals or things that would grow on the backs of those whales, which you'd have, you know, when the whale surfaces, you could go down and kind of pick them up, but then don't stay too long because you might end up being sucked into the bowels of Stanton.
Piggles needs his space pork, you know. So yeah,
that's right. And we'll just bag him out because he is hearing voice. He's just
very, very quiet.
Probably saying, "I don't get a word in edgeways."
Well, you know, I could say that.
Bet you won't, because you're a good guy, right?
Anyway.
That's the Piggles.
The Piggles pig.
The Piggles pig.
Mr. Truts-a-lot, or Mr. Oinks-a-lot. I don't know, I haven't come up with a name yet, but yeah.
I'm amazed you still haven't taken that out of the package.
No, it's still in the wrapper. Why would I do that? Like, and it goes invisible anyway because it's green. Look. So.
Question for our viewers. Name the pig.
Yeah, maybe.
Suggestions for the name of the pig.
Yeah.
I think it should be called Piggles Jr.
Piggles Jr.
Piggles Jr.
That's the bar to beat. It's pretty low. Yeah.
The piglet.
The piglet.
The piglet.
Yeah. It's actually
Piggles the pig.
A dog's toy. That's why it's covered in spikes, if you can see the spikes. But yeah. Anyway. Funny enough, though, my brother's dog doesn't like it.
Oh, there you go.
Anyway. Who was next?
Sunny Boy.
Sunny Boy. Yep.
Sunny Boy has the pig's name is Jared. Thank you, Jeff.
That is now beating Sir Piggles Jr. So that's the bar to beat. Yeah.
All right. So Sunny Boy has a question. Should dirt and grime be burnt off during re-entry or be protected by the ship's shields? I would have thought it'd get burned off.
Potentially, because what if it's really caked on there? What if it's mud that's dried and set? So I actually think it would be, like, if you want to really get into the nitty-gritty of it, like, wouldn't it be a time versus how long it's been there and how tough it is? So if it's really, like, caked on there, it could survive re-entry, just like real life. You know, like, if you have a really big asteroid, it can burn right down and totally disappear. But if it's actually quite dense, it can survive. So it'd depend.
So the other question is not will it burn it off, but will it bake it on?
Could you get some clay stuck in your thruster port?
Some clay stuck on the you know, the kind of caked on the outside of your ship, so it's really there. And
that'd be
I would hope
a cool little quest chain, really, wouldn't it, Algared? You know, you land on some planet, seems simple as hell, and then you're leaving, and then all these troubles start coming up as you go back into atmosphere, and you're, oh shit, we're falling out of the sky. What's going on? But the quest the quest wasn't just picking up the box. The quest was like dealing with the shit, the afterfall. Yeah. That could be really interesting.
You know, I feel like when you...
So go on, Pickles.
I feel like when you start getting to the element of having it a little bit of clay stuck in an intake and screwing up your thrusters, you start getting into the point where you're just putting things in for the sake of it, where it sort of ceases to be as much of a game and more of just trying to add things. That's just my perspective.
If it was just for a quest, I could kind of live with it. But yeah, if it was there all the time, it could be a bit too much.
But it ties in with what they talked about years ago when I was talking about the way weather would have an impact on where you could land your ship. So, you know, there was the episode where they went to the wreck and, you know, landed the colony at the base and then drove your vehicle to where it needed, because where you needed to go, there was some process that was interfering with the ship flying. But go back to fauna. If you've got flocks of animals living on, you know, birds, you know, and you're coming up through, you could clearly suck a bird into your engines and maybe cause some damage, depending on what type of flying creature it was. So depending on where you were, you might avoid going there because of the fauna was so thick and could damage your ship in that way. Or there was acid rain that could damage your ship, so you might not want to go to that area. In
creatures that attack your craft and stuff like that too.
Yeah, well, you know, the boreal stalker.
Yeah.
I think it was quite a nasty critter. So I think that, to go back to Jay's question, there could be plenty of gameplay loops at time with clearing fauna, capturing fauna to infest another planet. You know, introducing cane toads to to Microtech just to screw them up. Shadow Girl had another question for us. Did you notice the glowing green veins in the rock walls of the video clip?
I
Looks
did.
less in alien stuff.
And the blue
possibly.
ones. There was like cyan ones and green ones. There was different colors too. So that might be different ores.
Yep. New
I don't know,
ore.
it just looked like rock to me.
Sorry, Pickles?
Just looked like rock to me.
Could be.
He's
Could be
on that.
rock.
He-
It could be nothing. It could be a new mining ore. We just don't know.
But you've got to remember, Execute. Pickles does like origin ships and just pretty things. So
He's very
he's not really
pessimistic.
he's not really industrial minded. So he's just it's a rock. You know,
Yeah.
it could be gold. It's just a rock. you know,
It's just
silver,
it's just
a rock.
sightseeing for Pickles.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm not even going to bother trying to reply.
It doesn't hurt to imagine Pickles, but you're right. It could absolutely be nothing. It could just be a cool effect of those caves.
It's just, yeah, a cool effect worth taking your origin ship to go and view and enjoy the look of the environment.
Mm.
So, yep. Crown 8 says, when will CIG move to scale on its production of the game and less reshuffling the organization? 10 years to gather assets, hiring devs, structure. We have to turn the corner at some point. They have. And they only really started the game at the end of 2014, so it's not 10 years. And you could see that even back then. You know, you could see the Arena Commander when it first came out. It was a test bed for the things they were trying to do. So I think to say 10 years is a bit harsh. It's 8 years at the moment.
Yeah,
from 2014.
that was one of the things that really clearly came out in the interview that we wanted to go across, because the media just shit on it every chance they get, don't they?
So and they're still looking for devs, because in any company you go through those cycles of people coming and people going. Like even in teaching, people will come into an area, come into a school and work at a school for 3 or 4 years usually, and then often they'll leave and go for a promotion or elsewhere as they're trying to build their career. And people are like, if it's the same, and if teachers are doing that, why isn't anyone else doing it?
There was a really
So-
cool post, Algared, that you would have liked by John Crew that I read on Twitter. They're actually now giving out patches to people for the ships that they worked on. So they had a photo of a raft patch, and so the people, everyone that worked on the raft, got a patch for the raft. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
I think.
And someone wanted to buy one, and he goes, "Yeah, $44 billion," because of the Twitter. But yeah.
But they're also, they're limited, so they are collector's pieces. So someone who's got a jacket with all of them on is, going to be pretty awesome. My question would they predate them and give them to anyone else who's left the company who worked on those ships? So,
Can I just pop back to the question?
Yeah.
Something, especially in development, that stuff, it never stops. It happens all the time. Sometimes you hear about it more than others. Sometimes it happens more than others. Like the whole new office kind of thing. But that happens all the time at every company, and it never stops. So just because something's moving around, that isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. Strike, even in education, the syllabus is changing constantly and get morphing and being worked on and adjusted and modified. Every company does that. Every company modifies. Every company adjusts things. Every company moves things around. Every company is
more so in games development, though, because it is a form of R&D. You are essentially there, trialing error stuff to see what works best. You are essentially testing the gameplay for the best outcomes.
And
hey, Texas.
And that is something that I it's hard because as a gamer I want the game. I want it finished. I want it now. But as someone who is seeing how it's done and seeing so much of the info, it is there's an enjoyment there as well. And it's hard to sometimes get that balance of the things we want and the things that are there, and yeah, I'm not sure how to explain that, but yeah, there is that
Most
divide.
gamers don't understand it, and they just want their game. And I said that in the interview. But if you actually understand, the longer you wait, the more refined something is, right? We can all understand that. Like, so scotch or wine, the longer you leave it, the better it ages. It's that analogy, but someone is working on it. So if you think about it, like one of the things you always say, Pickles, the 90 versus the 10%. Can you say that for me? That thing that you always say?
Yeah, that like especially games is the biggest kind of time where this applies. But the last 10% of the work is usually the last 10% of the progress is usually 90% of the work. You know, you've done all of the the starting bit, the starting stuff. You've got everything laid out and going, and what's left takes a really long time. Yeah, you've got to go and find the tiny little things that hide niggles, tiny inefficiencies in code, art, weirdness, that kind of thing, and that takes a really long time. So it can look done for years, but just not quite be there, and that happens at every game studio, to my knowledge at least.
Just real quick, notice how much better the AI is when you're like no one else is on the server.
Yeah.
So it's actually good when no one's there, and then people turn up and they're like, anyway.
Clunky or standing on
Yeah.
stairs.
Anyway, sorry for interrupting, Pickles.
Oh no, I was done.
All right. So yeah, but yeah, I think everyone can get that analogy. The more time is given, the better something is, and especially older people. Younger people tend to be less patient. They want that dopamine hit. So, yeah. Next question, Algared.
Next question is Philip Alexander Ostag, and he says, or Ostag, he says, hello. Love listening to you guys, and just wanted to say thanks for what you're doing. Oh, gee whiz, golly gosh shucks. Warm fuzzy feeling. And the question is, what are the main features you're looking forward to in that are coming in 3.17 and 3.18?
Cargo refactor has to be probably the biggest thing, one of the biggest things for me. There's lots of small things in 3.17, but it does make it a very big patch. So there's not really one thing. There's just lots of little, everything from quality of life. I don't know.
I think the quality of life improvements we're seeing in 3.17 are pretty big. So just the start of inclusion of the graphics rendering stuff. The Gen 12 stuff is pretty big. And has quite a big impact. But I just like whenever a new ship comes. I like whenever new gameplay comes. I just like getting in the game and playing, and I don't really care. In many things, I just like everything new that comes and seeing how it's different, what's improved, or what's changed, and stuff. So yeah. What about you, Pickles?
To be honest, a lot of the stuff in 3.17 isn't too interesting to me, and the same with 3.18. I mean, the big one I'm interested in is obviously that.
Is it because there's no Origin ships coming? Is that
I'm not even that into Origin ships.
Hey, you are almost every second ship you own is Origin.
I have a 400i and that's it.
What happened to the 315, the 100i that you had as well?
Oh, I've got a 125a.
Oh, I've only got a 400i.
What the?
We've already caught him on a lie.
I have 2 ships.
Yeah.
I've only got 2 ships.
And they're both Origin. That's 100% Origin, like I said, but anyway. I think I said every second ship, but no, it's 100%. I was wrong.
Great, thanks.
I don't need to make up that percentage of my fleet.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've lost track. Yes, I mean, the Gen 12 renderer is interesting, and the slow integration of that into what we've got. It's nice to see how it kind of progresses. But the big thing for me, I mean, I have no idea if it's even scheduled for 3.19 or anything beyond, but on the progress tracker, we're looking at a lot of server-side crash recovery options in terms of restoring a new server from a mesh backup, which is actually what's really interesting to me. So I'd like to see that becoming a thing.
You mentioned something that I've now just completely left my head, but anyway. The renderer, Gen 12 renderer, I saw Paul talking about that. People had sent reports to him, and they were getting upwards of 30 to 60 frames benefit. Like, I think that's insane. But if those reports are true, that is insane.
Yeah.
Getting those big massive benefits.
I know, I found in the PTU I seem to get way higher frames out in space, but as soon as I go to a city, I'm about 5 to 10 frames lower than on live.
I tend to find the PTU is just better frames in general. Once it's just before release, and I can tell it's getting closer to release because it's better and better frames. Sorry, Algared.
Yep, I was just going to say pretty much the same thing. The PTU is always a great place to see what the frame rate's like, but it is certainly. I find the PTU is still a lot faster and better and feels smoother than it used to do. If you go back to say release of say 3.15 compared to say release now, I think you'd find you're probably getting a better gameplay experience than you did back then. But that's just a subjective opinion rather than one that I can say is tested in the annals of science or the halls of science. So yeah. So thanks for the question, Philip. Sebastian. Welcome back, Sebastian. I don't know if you're still here. If you are, say hi in chat, because I did miss it when you were in there before. But Sebastian said, since gun rocks are geared towards larger weapons, where do you store small weapons like pistols? Is there some pistol drawer, or do you just keep the smaller weapons with your character?
I think they can go in the gun lockers. Yeah.
Yeah, gun racks also have pistol slots.
Yeah,
there are pistol racks in your Hey, Sebastian, good to see you. So yeah, they do have the pistol racks in the gun rack side. I did once go into my 890 and fill up every rack in the 890 with rifles and pistols. But it has a lot of weapon wraps in the 890, surprisingly, considering it's just a touring ship. The algorithm is strong with these two, huh? Okay.
Sorry, I'm laying stuff out. Sorry if I missed your joke.
Going down, Lonix Leaf has a question for us.
Hi, Lonix.
He says, to give reason for getting skilled at cooking, will there be buffs or some other way of benefits for better foods, or will it just keep you faster longer, keep you full longer? If you look at the foods, the descriptions on some of the foods, already they indicate there are differences that will come with those foods. So I think yes.
They also talked about health though too, didn't they, Algared? Like fizzy drinks versus water and.
Yeah, so some of them give you better carbohydrates to give you more energy. Some will just keep you hydrated. Some of them will give you better energy but cause you to dehydrate more. So I fully expect foods would probably be one of the crafting areas I would see we can actually create the end product. We might not be able to create, or at least create a product we can eat,
I'd agree with that.
But not necessarily packaged for long journeys.
I fully expect that we'll eventually see shops where you can sell your own food.
Yeah.
I do say that as a thing, like where if you want to be a chef, you can do it.
Yeah, I could fully see that. So yeah, hope that answers your question, Leaf. Or Lonix, sorry. Bryce Hanson has a question. He says, they have said that this is the starter refining ship. Do you see larger or even capital-sized refining ships? How do you see this capability potentially different from an Orion?
We kind of answered that a little bit before, but yeah, go ahead.
We did kind of answer that a little bit before, but I think the fact that it'll a specialized refining ship would do would be significantly better than a ship that just really is at the moment refining its fuel for itself or just doing one or two processes. So that's how I'd see it different from Orion, not Odyssey. I think that if you've got a large capital-sized specialist refining ship, it'll be different from the Orion in that the Orion is munching the stuff, kind of clearing it, doing an initial process, whereas the Refinership is going to be specialised at doing that. So I could be wrong, but yeah, that would be my thought. And I apologise for mixing up the Orion and the Odyssey there, which is a great sin. I should recant.
The 3 ships I want to equip, I can't. Just being a pain in the butt.
I've noticed you were on that screen for a while.
Yeah, I just doesn't want to let me do it. So I'm very much looking to the overhaul of this Moby Glass, because this is probably one of the most infuriating experiences at the moment. Just trying to get the ships to load in.
Yeah.
Is
well, Shadow Girl, you can be the executive chef on the 890 jump alongside my barkeep. Sorry, just get into character here. Shadow Girl, you're most welcome to be an executive chef on my 890 jump along with Paulie, my barkeep. Well, thank you, Old Man Hurston, for that word of advice there. So there you go, Shadow Girl. Old Man Hurston is quite happy for you to be.
Turn down the geriatric level just to dodge. Just. I'm joking.
Old Man Hurston.
I know. I'm just joking with you. It's all good.
And channeling, attempt to channel one of those great American actors, Jimmy Stewart. That's who Old Man Hurston is modelled on. Sorry to Jimmy if it's nowhere near what you would like. Anyway, so yes, I could see that the Swedish chef could be a thing.
One thing I will tell you is I think this is not far off release because it's actually showing my loaners on the PTU now. Which is a very key sign that they're about. Because like one thing you'll notice if I go back in here, I had to buy a prospector for the PTU because both my prospectors are loaners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now 4 prospectors.
Yeah.
So I only had 1 that I brought, and the other 3 are all loaners. So release could be imminent, people. Just saying.
Now I will say, Shadow Girl, that I have already established that Old Man Hurston does have a nurse. He calls a nursey. It was established in one of the streams I did with Paul. So there you go. Anyway, moving on. We're up to Johnny Johnface says, your favorite subject, the Perseus. In the lore, it didn't have a shield, but a lot of armor. It was able to take down 2 Vandal destroyers. And that is because... so yes, that's your statement and your question.
What the fuck? Sorry, Algared, did you know that the Andromeda has 4 coolers?
The who?
They're only size 1. The Andromeda's got 4 size... That's crazy.
4 size 1 coolers?
I did not know that. That's... Wow, the components on this thing really need to be dialed up a notch. Because look at the number of components. That's crazy.
The size 2 is fine.
They're all size... Like, so it's got 4 size 1 coolers.
No, it's got 2 size 1 slots and 2 size 2 slots.
Let me double check.
Yes, he's right.
No, you're right. No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, it's still 4 coolers.
There's still 4 coolers, but that's what I was implying more, that it's got 4 coolers. It's just crazy.
It would be nice to see the Phoenix actually have 4 size 2 coolers, because it was always supposed to be bigger and better in terms of the abilities it had, because it had those, the extra point defense turret, because it had the hot buff it needed, because it had extra passengers it needed those things to function and run. But unfortunately, when they reworked it after doing the damage states, it just got a middle section rework. So yeah. In answer to your question, Johnny McJohnface, about the Perseus. The Perseus in lore is a very old ship. It's actually a kind of in line with the Tavaran War. So it's kind of that type of ship. It's before we had shield tech. It's before we'd beaten a Tavaran and stolen their tech. So it's kind of predates that type of era. Will the new one have shields? Yes. Will it still be? How much will there be? I have no idea. Will it still be heavily armored? Yes. Will it be? Is it a ship for going long distances? The way they've marketed it and the way they've talked about it, it isn't a long-range ship. But it doesn't mean that it can't go long range if it's got other things supporting it. So, what do I think? Do I think that armor is why the price is so high? I think it was high, because it was a small ship. It could be crewed with a small crew, that it had lots of armor, and
What ship was this?
The Perseus, and it had big bang guns.
I think it's because there was this very particular channel that hyped the shit out of it for almost 12 months, and I blame myself for that. And I think it's very overpriced for what it is.
So,
yeah.
I think part of it is because it had big guns.
Welcome.
You know, two size 4 turrets with size.
Do you think we had anything to do with that, Piggles? The price of that, at all?
Your vehicle has been delivered to the following location.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't think so, to be honest. I think that it'll get priced or whatever because people will buy it anyway.
Yeah, well, that's marketing 101, isn't it? That, you know, what they think it can sell for is what they're going for, and we've proven that a few times. But to me, it's a $350 size of the ship. It's not a almost $700 price. It's you can clearly put it next to other ships and see physically the size of it. It's like akin to a Starfarer, a Caterpillar. It's smaller than a C2, that type of thing.
I think the idea was that it was, in terms of presentation, it was done in a similar capacity to the Hammerhead. So if I had to hazard a guess, they were probably aiming around that mark anyway.
The Hammerhead's another ship that's overpriced, though, so that's yeah. But I see where you're going. Like, but they're both. We'll put it this way. You look at the Hammerhead and you look at the Redeemer. Oh, not the Redeemer. So the Reclaimer. The Reclaimer is like 15 million game, and I think the Hammerhead's like 11. Right. So the Reclaimer's $400, and the Hammerhead's what, $650 or some shit.
But the thing is,
you get the whole point of what I'm trying to make though.
The thing is, the Hammerhead's a military ship, so they know they can charge through the nose for it. And then when it comes to in-game, the in-game pricing really works off of components and other things, where those really rugged components, and in fact just the bigger ones as well, tend to cost more, which is why you end up with that higher price for the Reclaimer.
Yep. So they do argue that the components on ships do impact the price of ships in the real world, but I think it's just part of marketing.
It's kind of designers who are designing the ships versus the actual marketing people, and at the end of the day, it's rule of cool marketing, but I think that's one of the things we do when we do the analysis of these ships, isn't it, Algared? Is trying to ascertain what they're worth. And we've said this about many ships over the years. They are overpriced for what they are, and people think we're just plucking this shit out of our ass, but not the case.
Sometimes it is hard to break away from your prejudices of ships when you're looking at the value of a ship in game, and in some sense, you know, I have to agree with you in terms of your comments about the 890. They are not, or it's our Origin ships. They are often not worth the money in terms of what they're offering, because you can get ships that are doing the same job for significantly cheaper.
But by the same token, they are full of really good components, so I can see why they're priced that way, right? I just want the gameplay that goes with the component. You know, like the components don't justify the gameplay. That's my biggest issue.
But then, on the other side, I really do like the look and the feel of Origin ships. So, you know, some of them really do capture that luxury aspect, I think, quite well. But putting the gameplay loops in and putting the other aspects in, when you look at bang for buck, it really is hard. You know, it is hard to justify. Do you spend, you know, what is it nowadays for an 890 or $980 for a 890, or can you get other ships that are doing the job better? And that is always the 6 of one, half a dozen another. And at the end of the day, you make your choice and of the ships that you like, and it may be a ship that is not
Algared, I
not
just
available.
want to point out they've put in a new UI element. Can you see those little square brackets around? Look, when I move, see the little square brackets to the left and right of the warp thing? That's new. Just a little effect. It doesn't really do anything, but that's new.
Well,
They always there. They just didn't move.
Well, I'm just noticing now they're moving. They in the last patches they weren't moving. So something's changed in the last patch.
Thangrapper says big guns save lives, which is why the Perseus is so expensive. Well, he doesn't say why it's so expensive. He asked that question.
I think it's like look. Don't get me wrong. Every ship's got its price, but we're not complaining about the ship. We're complaining about the price. There are two very distinct problems, right? So I can look at it in any ship. I can look at it and go, "This is what it is. This is what it does. What is its worth?" And that's what we do with how we do this.
Yeah.
We don't come out and go, well, it's Origin, I must fucking hate it. No, that's not how it works. It's Origin. What is it doing? What is its worth? What is its gameplay? And that's the biggest problem I have with Origin ship. They just don't have the gameplay. But you go back to Perseus. I think that's going to have awesome gameplay. Is it worth $675? No, because I can get that gameplay for much cheaper ships, or I can get much more. Well, okay, let's just put it this way: Endeavour at 350 with all its gameplay, and the Perseus at 675. I can get 2 Endeavours for that. Like, it
But I
answers
think
itself,
the
yeah.
advantage- But then when you look at the Perseus, the advantage of a Perseus is a bit like the Redeemer. You can run that with.
See, I called it. 3.17 just hit PTU. I told you, release was imminent. It was so obvious to me. Yeah, there you go. Go play 3.17, everyone.
So now
No, it hit PTU, which is the patch you're currently playing, which is why you
I
couldn't
thought he
load it
said it
earlier,
hit.
'cause it wasn't flying.
I thought he said it hit live.
317, yeah,
No, 317A.
I'm on it right now, Del. Sorry, I thought he said live. I need to learn to read or get glasses. Wait, I got old man glasses here somewhere. Hold on. I can't find them. They're around.
He's such an old man, he's forgot where they are.
No, I gotta have magnifying glasses because I gotta squint now. Everything's doing that. If I need to read it, I need to put it further away thing like this.
And yes, Shadow Girl, I kind of see Origin being kind of that Star Trek of the universe. Certainly the 890, it gives you that sense of being on a...
Oh, wait.
On a,
wait, sorry.
on
Origin...
an Enterprise.
RSI's the Star Trek, in my opinion. With the new look at the Mantis and stuff like that, it's going to be way more Star Trek-y.
Now, having said that about Origin, I always looked at the Idris being the Enterprise of Star Trek of a game where you'd have, and I know you always used to bag me of saying, "Oh, I just want people on the ship to be red shirts," but the view was you have your crew, and then you've got your NPCs that are your red shirts.
I'd argue the Carrack's the Enterprise in that.
But the Carrack is also and that was before the Carrack was out and released. I always used to see
That's
that.
true.
So
I'll give you that. It was a while ago.
so I used to take that view. The Carrack is probably more the Enterprise, but if you look at the 890 jump, it's got all the things that you have on the Enterprise. It's got the luxury, 10 forward bar. It's got all the other things.
It's not lagging. It's not lagging anymore. Warping around Arcorp. They used to lag like crazy. Look, they lag.
Yep.
So they fixed something there. They've optimized something on the planet.
That's that Gen 12 stuff kicking in, maybe.
Potentially.
Yes, I would love to see them redo the Constellation style to be more Mantis-y, or Apollo-ish. I get the. I often think the look of the Apollo is very Constellation size. It's just got an engine knocked off, or 2 of the engines down, but it does look like a really nice ship. I can't. Sorry, Shempass just got his message muted by the bot, but it doesn't like repetitive words for some reason. I don't know why. He just said, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god." Maybe because I said live was ready and it's not. But yeah, sorry, that was my bad. I read it wrong. Maybe going straight down. Straight down. Okay, so Shempasta has a question for us, actually, to make sure. Yes, we've done that one. So, Shempasta has a question for us. Do you think CIG will come up with a solo drug lab processing ship? They could come up with any ship they want at the moment, but it's... If drug processing is science, then we already have one.
Could it be a cross between medical and science? There's just so many what if maybes there.
Yep. But if you're we've got the Reliant Sen, which is a one-man science ship. So if it's in science, then it's that. If it's medical, then maybe your cup was red.
So when we try to work out what ships that are coming or what ships that they could possibly do, we go, is there a ship that they've announced that's in that category that is unique? And then we also know that you've got small, medium, large capital. So that's kind of what we try to fill. And they've said they're going to try and get a ship in every category. So they might only get 3 ships. They might not get 4. So, but we'll go, all right, there's 4. And go, this is what they've told us, so there's potentially 4. We always work with the potential, because that way you're not going into if, buts, and maybe. And there are sometimes we have to step back when one of it, because every time it'll happen every now and again, one at Algared, one of us will get into an if, buts, and maybe type of thing.
Yep, I would probably agree with that.
Yeah. We self-check each other. You know, and you know, even though, like, well, I said that when Dyson was on, like, he's one of the more pessimistic Inforunners, but he checks everyone. You know what I mean? Like, it's good to have people like that around because it keeps us more balanced. You also want that White Knight fanboy, because then you've got the 2 extremes and a whole bunch of people in the middle, and they're all pulling each other and finding that equilibrium.
Yeah, and even when that's the case, there are times when we still disagree.
Yeah.
On issues and topics, and we'll say, okay, well, you know, we'll put both things forward, but
and if we can't agree, we'll just go, well, we'll wait and see, or you know, and a lot of it is guesswork and going, hey, what do you think this of this, and you know, fling it out and see if it sticks. And sometimes a lot of it is very logical and it's really obvious, and there are other times where it could go one way or the other.
And other times it just, you have no idea, and it's just, yeah.
But it's fun to speculate. That's one thing SO says. The only thing we really have in the game at the moment is speculation, because just too many, up in the air.
Still being worked on, or is only at stage 0. So yeah. Jack Raven has a question. He says, do you wake up at night covered in a cold sweat when you think about how much it's going to cost in game to house your fleet? I think that's to me.
Yeah, probably. Well, even to me. No, because we get free starting pleas on our planets because we're older backers. Suck shit. We do though. We get free starting. Oh, you might not get it, Algared, but I got it.
I'm not sure I do.
I get free starting fees on my starting planet, so I just keep everything on there. Well, there you go. Well, then if he's got it, you've got it, Algared.
And there's that backer planet as well, which I believe everything's supposed to be cheaper. Yeah.
So what was that, Piggles?
There was a stretch goal of essentially a backer planet where if you back before a certain time,
yes,
I can't remember where it was. You get a jump point to a planet, but you can start there. And I remember hearing something along the lines of stuff's supposed to be cheaper, but I don't know.
What can I get you?
Yeah. I'm not sure.
I get free fees.
Do you know
I
this?
get free landing fees. So.
Do you know who this guy is here?
Nope. That's a coffee vendor.
Yeah.
The guy who deals with my addiction.
He won't talk to me.
Because he hates you. See, he hates you so much, he decided just to pretend you're not there.
What the hell? Or they disabled it?
Possible. There you go. See, if you had a look at that, it had the effects.
Here we go. We'll get a coffee.
Done and done.
Very technical process where he walks over here.
Goes to the Pip's juice machine.
Apparently there's 5 buttons within that one button. Don't know how that works, but okay, sure.
And he's getting you a Pips. I thought you were getting a coffee.
Yeah. Obviously some animations to be worked out.
Yeah,
Well, they definitely changed the way the coffee looks, because it's a lot more clear now.
No, that's a crema on top.
Oh, hang on, I think I've got take my wrong thing.
Good espresso coffee has a crema on top, which is not like the cream, the froth from a cappuccino, but just yeah. Take your helmet off.
Oh, I just dropped it. No, I just dropped it on the ground. You can't actually take your helmet off. What the hell? Oh, can I just mouse one? Right into the camera. Okay, seems realistic.
Hey, but you can see your put it in the bin. It's the right thing to do.
Whoa, we entered the Matrix, Algared. What the
Yep.
What the fuck?
You're actually inside a bunch of replace me balls.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, that's what the texture was. Replace me.
It's not there now at all. Anyway.
I do know my coffee digital. I have been referred to as a snob. So
What the hell? What the hell? I just. Oh,
no,
camera.
I never had a mohawk. Ever.
Nah, he had a big spiky head. His head era about 3 foot tall, spikes all over. That's what it was.
Yeah. But thanks for the for saying you think it looks like me. Okay, so man on crutch. I think we've kind of answered your question, Jack Raven. No, I don't. I just don't think about it. I think at one point I will. But at the moment I don't.
What was this for the starting fees?
Yeah, for the starting ship cost and housing my fleet.
Out of sight, out of mind.
I did think of things like storing ships on ships to help alleviate that problem. No. That's an answer to your statement, TJ Frost. No. Man on crutches. Question. Out of interest, when Pyro finally arrives, what will be the first ship to take? That I assume you're asking. What will be the first ship I take into Pyro, or you will take into Pyro? Piggles.
I'd probably go MSR myself, but yeah, Piggles.
I'd follow someone through the jump point on a Nogs.
Well.
I have no idea which ship I would take in. I'd like to say Carrack, but I'd need people to be on with the guns and so that it didn't get so I wasn't unarmored.
Something with long range, yeah. Essentially, that's what it boils down to me.
But it'll be a ship that I enjoy flying. I could see myself taking an Andromeda because I do like the Connies, even though they suck a little. Yeah, MSR, Carrack.
I could go my Pirate
Connie.
Caterpillar, like really set the mood.
Caterpillar. Yeah, whatever ship I'm interested in flying on the day, I don't really go, oh, I've got to take this ship into this area because it's cool. I just go, oh, yeah, this is the one I'll take. So, sorry if I can't answer that question better for you, man on crutches. What is the ship you would take into? Oh, it's okay, old man. I understood what you were saying. Well, not old man, but man on crutches. I understood what you were saying. But what ship would you take into Pyro as your first ship? That's a question for all of you. Add it in chat. What is the ship you'll take into Pyro? 890 with a Gladius and Merlin's in the cargo hold. Yeah.
Just realised something after I did all that. I might claim the Prospector and go out to Lyria, where I can have a look.
I expect the Corsair not to be out before Pyro. So you'll have to pick another ship, old man on crutches.
That's a tough one, because I could agree with him, because the Corsair's already in work right now. It started at the end of last year. I wouldn't say it's as big as a Constellation, and a Constellation took 12 months.
Yeah, okay.
In the year, I could see that as a distinct possibility.
If I had people on the 890, I could see myself going in an 890 with 3 arrows in the hangar, and an Ursa rover in the cargo bay. But yeah, I could see that. But
Your insurance claim has been
any
settled.
ship, I'll take any ship. Doesn't bother me. I'll go for the
We'll wait 3 minutes.
I'll go for the touring aspect of seeing what it is. Yeah, arrows in the 890. It can take. You can actually get a wing of 3 of them in the 890 quite comfortably.
Hey,
So-
John, do you know if they sell any mining charges here at ArcCorp, or do I have to go out somewhere else? Let me know, John. John. By the way, John Crease is also John Citizen, just so you're aware. Algared.
Yep. Yeah, I knew that.
All right, cool. I didn't know if you did. Just let me know. Yeah.
So moving on, as we're still getting a few more people coming in with their questions of stuff they take into Pyro. I'll ask another question. I'll answer it. Ask another question for us. Bruce Fontenot. Fontenot? Or Bruce Fontenot. I'll say it like a Frenchman. Bruce Fontenot. He says, is it better to buy a ship back? If you can melt the ships you don't want, well, you can't melt the ships you don't want in a fleet pack. So, if that's what you're saying, if you're asking, if you've got standalone ships you don't want, is it better to melt them and buy a fleet pack? If it's got ships you want, then possibly.
There's many moving parts there too, because Warbond CCU,
There are so many
sales
moving
coming up.
parts in
Yeah,
it.
that's a loaded question, man. You want help with
and-
that? You come and see me, Algared, directly, and we'll sort you out.
But it comes down to what pack you're looking at, what and everything else in that question. Yes, you can CCU all the ships in those packs to anything else you can normally CC them to, but hey nerd drinkers, but
Drop in voice, drinkers, if you want. Come
but
join.
it does
us.
have problems whenever you're using packs, because if you make an error when you're CCUing, on the last ship and you want to undo it, you've got to melt the pack and start all over again. So advantages and disadvantages. So yeah. But if you do want help, as Execute said, jump into General on our Discord channel and hit us up, and we will gladly.
Or drop a message
and
in Fix
find-
My Fleet or CCU
Yep.
helpers. Someone there will help you as well if it's
And
not us.
we or someone else on our channel who has drunk our Kool-Aid will gladly help you answer those questions and sort out what it is you actually want. So
that's the other thing we're going to work on too, Algared. We're going to do a general CCU guide before the sale, and then obviously the one after the sale. So that's the next thing on Algared's and my card. Well, especially mine, to get sorted. But yeah.
So Shadow Girl, why wear a Superman hat? We all know Green Lantern.
Because it's the black one. It's the evil Superman one.
Yes, but as she says, Green Lantern is better.
Have you seen Ryan Reynolds in in Green Lantern? No, it's not. Definitely not. Henry Cavill all the way. Like, I love Deadpool, but Green Lantern was terrible.
Well, I'll just say that Green Lantern was at least a human, opposed to Superman, who's an alien. So if you're a centralist in the PU universe, you probably would like Green Lantern more than you'd like Superman, because they don't like aliens. At least if I've got my political parties correct.
Star System politics. The only thing more boring than real politics. Anyway.
I think you're missing the real best superhero, that is Shazam.
Shazam's pretty good. But he also shares his power with his brothers and sisters, so...
Yeah?
No, that's Wonder Twins.
No. Shazam shares it with his brothers and sisters.
Oh, does he?
He can actually diversify it out between them all. So, yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. I haven't watched Shazam since the movie came out. That's Yeah, you're a silly girl, Shadow Girl. Silly person. Backing Leilani Addison. You just backed her for the AI tech, didn't you? Anyway, I killed that conversation. Where are we up to? Because the chat's moved up. Shadow Girl asking that question. So we're back up to Nathan Wells. His question is, with the looming threat of piracy in 318, since cargo boxes will be transferable, how soon do you think we will see another PvP balance pass in response to the extreme piracy MPU?
Hang on, I'm just trying to park this, but it won't let me.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go personal inventory and put it back in there?
Because you don't have a pack, right?
It has to attach to the bottom of a backpack.
Oh, really? Okay. Excuse my coughing. All right, I'll try and find a backpack then.
So, they'll keep balancing things as they go. It's one of those issues where, and this can also be a danger in going bang for buck, in terms of looking at the game now. If you're doing bang for buck, looking at the game now, you're likely to become a cropper because you're really just looking at a game or gameplay that's not what it's going to be in the future. The game, what you see, what you're gaming now is totally different to what you're going to play in, or how it's going to be in 2 years' time.
Which is why we try to run it through as many heads as possible. We get, as accurate as we can, but it's not. It's going to be more accurate than one person doing it, but it's still not going to be 100%.
Yep, and it's certainly when we're doing 6 month fleet, why we don't just do we do a video. It's never just we sit down, start the video, and this is what you need. We usually sit there for a long while, trying to work out exactly what the people want, and then looking at the options before we do a recording. So, we've opened a can of worms with the politics there. So. Yeah, I think Lassalle was too much of an industrialist. He would have stripped everything bright. He'd have been a great... Old Man Herson probably would have liked Lassalle because he was giving them more freedom. Leilani Addison is too much of a Xeonophile. So I think she loves Xeon too much, as seen by her proposal for the senator. Not the senator, as ambassador to the Xeon, which was really nuts to send a Xeon to be our human ambassador to Xeon. It's nuts. The other female, whose name eludes me, she was a nutter because she wanted to have peace with the Vandul. Like, you can't have peace with the Vandul. I'm sorry. Even I can remember. Mr. Haddock saying at one point that the Vandal are bad. There's nothing good about them. They are if you're after the penultimate bad guy in Star Citizen, it's the Vandal. Don't think you can be friendly with them. They don't want to be friendly with us. They'll just kill you. So, all right, take care, John.
Say, John.
Let's see. Moving on.
I'd love to have a little search box up here so I could just like type in orc and
I'd love to have that even on the. I know this is our problems, but I'd love to have that type of thing on the ship terminal where you could say, ship manufacturer.
Yep.
And only shows those ships.
Yep.
Rather than everything.
Because that's just setting up. That's just setting up a tag system, so it's not that hard to do.
But it'd be nice to have those. John did have a question for you, and I don't know. And it was, when you're going to fix your bloody camera, mate?
I don't know. I thought I tried plugging in the USB hub with power today, and I had a new cable. No difference. So it has to be the camera now. There has to be a problem with the camera.
Have you tried plugging the camera straight into the drawing power from a computer, or
well, the problem with that, then it just becomes a huge issue because then every time I've got to keep moving it between the two. So I can try that. That's my last ditch effort, but it's just really annoying because if I have to get up and manually do it all the time, it's going to drive me nuts. So
because it could just be that it's the hub itself being, working via the hub is the issue rather than.
Yeah, but
and again, it's just.
But it was working fine. So.
Yeah, it's pulling straws out of a hat to try and solve that. So Shimpasta has another question for us. Will the BMM or Orion be able to fit in a jump point? Yes, just large ones, at least. And how they'll do jump points, I think it was one of the last things Hayes had as a suggestion for the jump point, that they were not necessarily small, medium, large in terms of size, but in terms of how stable they were. So the small ones were considered less stable, and the large ones were more stable, or something like that. And
so it's not so they could all essentially be the same size. It's how stable they are. So like if it's not stable enough, then only the small one. Think about it. So if you've ever seen it on the any sci-fi you watch, and you'll see the wormhole like wiggling around like freaking crazy and stuff like that. But essentially, like the small ones can go through because they can be more maneuverable and they can get through it. You could try to go through with a heavy one, but if you come out, the ships are just not maneuverable enough. So that's one way to look at it.
Jump point, you could be in big trouble. So how they're going to jump points is a good question. It's one of those open a can of worms and speculate to your heart's content. So thanks for that comment, Pickle Skin. We did enjoy the conversation with Sandy. I got to admit, I was often just wanting to just hear what she was saying, to hear the story, and I could have done that all day. And one of the things that came out to me was how Australian she was, in just in terms of the mannerisms and the way she interacted. Just to me, just felt, I'm not going to take any crap from you. I'm just going to be me, and if you don't like it, tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of the things I kind of felt with that. But yeah. So moving on.
Yep.
Damar Begonja. He says, any thoughts on Starfield? I know it's another game. That's about it. I know it'll have similar gameplay, because it's a base game, but that's all I can tell you because I haven't looked.
So I'm not been a big fan of the engine that they've used for a long time at Bethesda, or specifically at the studio that makes those games. I'm having a brain fart right now, sorry. But yeah, this being a new engine, I'm going to take a look at it. Do I particularly like that up? I'm not really into the, Elder Scrolls or that. Like, I've never been into that. I don't like single-player games as much. I like human interaction. Because AI for me has just never been able to... Like, I can tell it's AI. So when I tell it's AI, I just know I'm on a train on a path or whatever. I like interacting with people. So I will look at Starfield, purely based on it's a new engine and it will be fairly popular. But for me, I've just always really been more of a multiplayer gamer, so it's just not quite my thing. But the sci-fi is my thing. The last single player game I finished was Cyberpunk, just to put it in perspective. So it's got to be really right up my alley. And Cyberpunk did have a lot of issues, but it ran fine on my system because I generally have a more optimized system because I build a lot of PCs for people and stuff like that. And I tend to find most people that, they'll buy a $1,000 laptop and then expect it to run everything. And it just doesn't work that way. And that's where most of the complaints come from. They go, I have a computer, why doesn't this computer run it? And it's not like a PlayStation or an Xbox where they are all the same. They are radically different specs, but yeah.
I think for me, it's very difficult to form opinions on Starfield because I don't know anything about it. No one knows anything about it. Bethesda have been super tight-lipped, and all we really have is some screenshots in a general setting.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's right for anyone, especially anyone who has a public voice, to form opinions on things that they just don't know anything about.
Yeah.
I mean, it holds my interest. I like the setting. I mean, I enjoyed most of the Fallout games, so assuming it's it's a Bethesda RPG, so it can't be too different, right?
I think your level of expectation should pretty much be look at the last Fallout game and potentially a bit better engine because it's new.
Now arriving.
Right, and that's as low as my expectation is. Am I expecting a huge, massive world like Star Citizen? No. I think it'll be a lot more linear. I think it'll be like, look at KOTOR. That's almost what I'd be expecting. As in, you go to a planet, you go around, do it. It's like a little hub. You go off into little rooms and you do your mission. It might be like a map and there is a location, but I don't think it's gonna be a full planet like Star Citizen. I think it'll be a lot more. Just like in KOTOR, you visit a planet and it's basically just a different themed level. It's not.
So the type of thing you expected to find, what originally Star Citizen would have had, where you go to a planet and you ArcCorp,
Yeah.
you had ArcCorp as your landing spot, and that was it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's also hard to, as you were saying, Pickles, to really judge a game when it has been developed behind closed doors. You heard bits and pieces of this game's coming, but you didn't really see any of the back behind the scenes stuff. That was one of the things that really set Star Citizen apart from some other games. We've had that depth of information, and I've been thinking about it in terms of what the community used to be like in terms of the information we're getting. And I think the key difference is that we used to feel more personal.
Yeah.
In terms of the way it was given, because the people involved were really, really passionate, and showed that. Now, it's not saying the people giving us the information now aren't passionate, but there is that element where it's no longer as close, and so we might be getting the same info, but because that level of closeness doesn't feel there, it feels like we're getting less. But
the problem is, as you grow larger as a company, as a community, it can't maintain
exactly
that level.
what-
It just doesn't work.
That's exactly what Sandy said. To the letter, what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah. As the company grows, because you look at the original company, it was like in 2014 there was maybe 8 or 9 people, or maybe 20 or 30 people by 2014. Now they're hundreds. And then you look at the community back then, it was maybe 200,000. Well, I think when I joined, there were like 300 or 400,000 people. Now it's 4 million. So significant in change. And when you've got that, you can't have that same level of intimacy that you used to have. And that's just the process of change. It's the process of, it's just it's sucky. It happens, but. Just life. We've got to get over it and get used to it. But yeah,
this is not the prospector I equipped. It's just it's spawned in the wrong one.
And this does raise up a point that Shadow Girl did mention, that she would love to have names appear in the ACT.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. That's a good idea.
The terminal, you name a ship.
Yeah.
The ship comes up as its name. Yeah, I'd love to see that as well. I thought that was an awesome idea, Shadow Girl.
Yeah.
Just so you know, that you know that we do read the chat as well.
It's a good. No, it'd be a really good way to identify your ships, especially if you've got different names and stuff. Yeah.
I've only got half a dozen of them.
When I claimed that ship, it was called Prospector 1. When it arrived, it was Prospector 4. So
yeah, because when you claim the ship, it was Prospector 1, but when you claim it, it goes to the bottom. So Prospector 2 is now Prospector 1. So
this is the only way I can think of to fix it. I'll just claim them all here.
Your insurance claim has been sent.
And then just re-equip them.
Well, one of them I've put the paint on and fully outfitted, but
yep. So just melt them all and reclaim them all, and then do the last one and. And then
and then I can figure out which one is the one that I outfitted. Yep. But I gotta wait 3 minutes.
Well, did you go into number 4 then? Yes. You could just re-equip number 4.
Yeah, but I don't have all the shit here. All the shit's back on Lawville.
Ah, yes.
So, no, I can't.
How annoying. Yep, because they're all being reclaimed.
And
all right, so moving on. Sandgripper question. Sandgripper WA 6000. Aussie. Oi. Should everyone own a Gladius, in-game purchase or real money? Because it's a test bed for all ship tech.
Do you like it? Do you want to like it? Do you want to use it? That's entirely up to you. That's a personal question. For me, from a bang for buck, no.
Well, that's why he does say, or in-game purchase or real money.
Yeah, in-game. For me personally, in-game. Algared, for you?
So, based on your question, in-game money or in-game purchase, yeah. Because it is the test bed for all the HUD stuff they do with ships. If you want to see how it's developing and what's changing, having a Gladius is a good way to see that. So whether you buy it with real money or whether you have it as a referral or whether you buy it in-game with UEC, yeah, everyone should aim to get one. There you go. What about you, Pickles? What's your thought? Should everyone seek to own a Gladius because it's a test bed for all ship tech?
Not necessarily. I mean, if you want to try the new tech, then yeah, go for it. But
yep,
they're pretty easy to own in game though. Like pretty damn easy.
Yeah, I mean they're easy to own in game. If you want one, get one. I mean, the Gladius as a test bed for tech is all well and good. The thing with it is that, the vast majority of the time it's a HUD change that's just going to go to everything anyway. The last thing we had that only really went to the Gladius was the weapon racks for fighters, wasn't it? And then that just went out anyway, and the new fighters that got made. And yeah, it's a nice thought if you want it, but it really boils down to just, do you like the Gladius? Because having it purely for being able to play with new stuff,
you can earn it in game.
You're really hardcore into it, there's no point.
He's saying, buying game or real cash. So in that case, yep. If you want to test the new stuff, then yeah, get it either way.
The only exception to that I can actually now think of is that if they put technically they give you 15 million when you go into the PU, so you can still just go buy one. I was gonna say, like, if you want that ship to be not a loaner when you go into the PU, but they give you 15 million, so you can just go in and buy one straight away. I don't think it's worth it because most of the new stuff would be on the PU anyway, and like if you want to see it first, and you can just take that 15 million and buy one. Yeah, I don't think it is worth owning one. As
he said, buying one with cash or credits, he's just asking, should we own one regardless? He's not saying buy it with cash. So
I don't
cash. So, I think it comes down to two things. One, if you're wanting to see that tech first up, yes. Two, if you are someone looking forward to Squadron 42, owning one and learning how to fly it really well probably is not a bad thing to do.
God damn it! Stupid camera.
So yeah. So good question.
I'm actually starting to wonder if it's something to do with Star Citizen, because like it's every time I do something, I think it's the faceware. I think it's the faceware camera's doing something.
Yeah, well, could well be.
Yeah.
Turn your faceware camera off. Maybe that will fix
Let's try that real quick.
So Drinkers said, what did we think of the Expanse Q&A? I'm going to say, go back and watch the beginning of the video when it's, and you'll be able to see.
How do you turn it off? Faceware enabled face tracking is no. So it's obviously off. So.
Okay, faceware camera rotation. You want to go to your faceware camera device, the top one? Wouldn't that be it?
Yeah, but it's already off. I don't know. Like it says here, it's off, so it's probably it can't be faceware. So yeah, I don't know.
So we've kind of already discussed the Q&A and what we thought of it. There are elements that were fairly good. There are elements that left. It's a starter professionship. Probably my take.
We got an episode coming out on refining that we recorded yesterday. There was a lot that we took out of it. Badges, I'll go over with you later, mate.
Do we anticipate more interviews with Sandy, or did Execute trying to guilt her into getting him his pledge gift? Lamb is runners into timeout. What on earth was it?
I think he's talking about my Kickstarter.
The pledge gift.
Yeah. Well, until it comes out, I'm never going to tick that box. until they can go because they'll argue it's out now, but to me it's not out. So when you know, Squadron 42 or Star System 1.0 comes out, it's probably Star System where I'll tick it.
I would say when Squadron 42 comes out, you could tick that Kickstarter as being delivered, but I wouldn't say it's delivered at the moment because it's not.
Yeah. Well, it depends what you were backing. I was backing Star Citizen. I wasn't really backing Squadron 42 back then. So for me, it'll be when Star Citizen 1.0, you know, launch day.
And certainly it's not out until you've got jump points and more than one system. But
yeah.
I look at our current system and it's got more gameplay than a lot of systems that have have multiple things. So it might still be a bit shallow, but it's still got lots more. So do we anticipate more interviews with Sandy? I'd love to have more interviews with Sandy, but
never say
I'm
never.
not sure.
Just leave it at
Yeah,
that.
never say never. Yeah, if she wants to come on, if she wants to come on, she's more welcome. She's more than welcome.
Yeah.
Sandy, the Inforunner. So yeah, I'd love to have Sandy on more often if she wants to come on. She is more than welcome. I'd love to.
The last part of that interview is already scheduled. It'll be out Tuesday Aussie time or Monday US time.
Yeah.
Where's a good place to mine? John's not here. He left, didn't he?
Yep, he has gone. He went to bed. So, the Aryan Belt, or whatever that belt is called. Cascadian, question. In your opinion, what niches exist that are not currently fulfilled or filled by a ship? That was a bit of an awkward question to get my head around.
Yeah, you've got to kind of think of the niches. That's a bit difficult. I think E-Warfare, we've only got really one ship for that at the moment.
Yeah.
That might be one.
I think, yeah, we've only got one ship that's readily available. I think the Raven.
And Algared wants to fulfill his Swedish chef fantasy in his cooking ship, and that doesn't exist yet.
No, that's the 890 jump. We can do that.
It's gonna be called the Ratatouille.
The 890 jump does have a full chef's kitchen, so that's where the Swedish chef can go. It does have a hospital or a med bed, so that's where Nursey goes. It does have a bar. That's there.
What were you saying, Pickles?
I was going to say, on the subject of e-warfare, right, I foresee that really only being worth using in kind of fleet warfare. And when you start getting into that level, you know, sure, you have dedicated ships like that Vanguard, I can't even remember what the variant was called.
Sentinel.
Sentinel, that's the one. But, you know, when you get, like, capital ships, like the Idris, the Javelin, chances are they'll have... You know, they'll have that capability anyway. I'd be amazed if they didn't. So,
yeah.
This is a part of the conversations we always have. Like, is there going to be a bigger e-warfare ship? Is it limited to that? So that's a what if for us. I
just don't imagine that being a thing. Like,
well, we've just agreed to disagree and just wait till where it turns up because we've had people go both ways. Like, I've had people lay out full capital ships that can do e-warfare and why, and I can go, yep, I can see that. And then I've seen people go, no, but like but they'll just roll them into normal ships. So I'm a wait and see on that run. That's the problem with niches. It's so niche. Does it scale out, or does it go in, or does it go just straight up a line? Yeah, makes it difficult. All right, next question, Algared.
We're actually coming to the end of our questions, so if you've got any more questions, please put them in with a question or just the word question in your question. You don't need to necessarily put it in brackets because the bot will actually just pick up anything that uses the word question in it.
Yep.
And we will answer those. Otherwise, we'll be running out of questions. We've got 3 left.
Probably should thank Pickles while he's here, because Pickles is the one that made that bot. So thank you, Pickles.
So Pickles is our bot man.
Part cyborg.
Part cyborg. Maybe the pig's a sci pig. All right, Cascadian has a question for us. No, I already answered that question. Sorry, that was the niche's question. Mac Unknown has a question. Upon release, should we expect ship prices to increase in game by an order of 10 or 100 or more?
That's a loaded question because it depends on the ship. It depends on where it's balanced for. Because I think in game they already are magnitudes larger already. But yeah.
But I think based on what Chris Roberts said years ago, I don't think we've got the prices they initially want. I think we'll see them a bit higher. Based on the prices, I think he once said on average gameplay, he expected someone to be able to earn a constellation in about a month of gameplay. So
you say 40 hours.
So about 40 hours,
60 was the
60.
last one I heard.
Okay, so 60
for a
hours
constellation.
versus-
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
hearing on that Area 18 landing thing demo. Yeah.
Yeah. So so that's kind of what I'd expect it to be. So yeah. So I expect the prices may go up, but again, it's all to do with that balancing process. So yeah. Brian McKee has a question. Do you think we will be able to change the HUD colours in ships, e.g. if changed to a blue?
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we could.
I think you
At the
will
moment,
eventually. You can already change some of the colors of HUD elements. So yeah, I think that will be. a
Yeah.
thing.
At the moment, I know some of the ships are kind of geared to race, so the Vandal ships are red because that's what the Vandal use. So, and some of them are keyed in with the manufacturer, so you get the different AI voices as well, tied with those manufacturers. So, but would I expect them to be different? Would I hope we could change them? Yeah. Because some of the backgrounds you want to be able to change for color, just so some of the colors are useful in some of the environments we've got. so yeah.
Especially
What
when
are
you
your
get
thoughts?
very white ones that you can't read and
Yeah.
stuff. So, yeah. But damn it.
What's
Sorry.
your thoughts on that, Pickles?
Sorry, you're quite quiet there. I didn't catch that.
Question on the colours of the UI HUDs. Do you think we'll be ever able to change them on our ship?
Yeah. I mean, certain ships have different UI colors, and it's totally doable because it's a line in a file basically. Right now. So I mean, yes, it's totally doable. Whether they do it, who knows? But there isn't really a whole lot stopping them other than the time needed to put in the systems to actually let you do it.
Shem Pasta wants to know how much wood a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
How much wood
And
could a
no,
woodchuck
that
chuck
one
if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Yeah, that one.
Is it an African or European woodchuck?
Yeah, that's the
yeah.
question.
Yep.
But what would woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Yeah, that's probably the question. And is it African wood or more European wood? You know, is it
Yeah, that's why I said
ironbark?
what wood.
Yep.
What wood?
What would a chuck? So yes.
That's a really good practice though for warming up. By the way, what would chuck wood? Would chuck wood? Chuck wood? And I still stuff it up every now and again.
Yep. And let's see. Recon Do 17 has a question. They say the one question I had put forth is, will we see the ability to buy reactor refiners in game, much like we see nozzles or tanks for the Star Pact?
Well, that's what we're expecting as well. So they're not just a refinery, but do you have specialized refineries? Do you have specialized versions of a nozzle for, because there's a nozzle for the Starfarer. Is there do you need this very particular component for this recipe? Stuff like that. So it could be really complex. And we, by having a power plant and just having 3 sub-modules, look how complex that gets very quickly. So it could be as complicated as that.
Yeah. And Shadow Girl has 2 questions for us. The first question is to me saying, Algared, do you want... I always look so handsome. Oh, shucks. Golly gosh, in my vest and tie. Gee whiz, golly gosh, shucks. Do I dress up
Is
for you? Do I dress up for
Shadow
me or
Girl...
for you guys?
Is Shadow Girl your mum? Because I'm really starting to think that she is. I don't know about you, Pickles. What do you think? I think it is clearly someone. It's Algared's got a shadow account.
I'm getting impressions.
Yes.
The answer to that question is a bit of both. So this is my normal work attire, but I started doing it as kind of a persona. So it's a bit of dressing up for you guys. Sometimes it's a bit of a hassle. If you ever...
I really go out of my way to dress up for you guys. I don't shave for weeks and put on some clothes. It's really exhausting effort, but I pull it off every time.
I, on the other hand, do, you know, put the contact lenses in so the lights don't shine off the glasses and cause reflection, you know. So I do try and do things to raise the quality of the show. So yes,
I'm just naturally this unattractive, so it's
that's
fine.
right. He's just a slob. You know, it kind of works. You know,
Hey,
kind of
there was that one time I put on a shirt and looked fancy. I did it once.
You did it once. Yeah. You even
special events get priority.
He did struggle with tying the tie at that time and getting it right.
I did not.
You did. Your first time you had it was kind of like up
so
here,
probably the
like,
first time in
really
10 years that I tied a tie.
But yeah, so and no, you're not my mum. If you were my mum, you'd have said the same thing a dozen times by now. I think because you know she's getting old. Poor dear. But yeah. And the other question was, do you guys like the inclusion of mining gadgets? I haven't really played with them, so I can't really say.
Well, I'll just look. I'll pick one of these rocks at random, and I'll show you. But it feels like a bit of a filler at the moment for until more ships are here that can do the rocks, or you know. So I'm almost wondering if it's something they're going to take out eventually.
I got the impression it was so to help extend the life of those small starter ships.
There's a manual element to though. You do have to, you know, get out and do it all.
Unfortunately, Freelancer, there's a sense where your comment is true. My older brother was always assumed to be the younger one because he had a full head of hair, whereas I was already, you know, losing mine by the time I was about 25. So my older brother was at uni, so that would have been early 20s. So my older brother was always seen as being younger because he had a full head of hair, whereas I was always seen as being the older one because I was bald, or balding. So. All
right. Well, we're gonna land and we'll get out and do this one.
So we'll show you the mining gadget. But I do think the idea of them is to increase the longevity or the use of a single person mining ships to give those single players a little bit more ability to go out in the verse and do stuff, because
I should have turned the lights on.
If you buy yourself some of those big rocks, it's just impossible to mine, and that's sucky. So if you can do stuff that makes, you know, add extra components that mean you can do that, it just makes life a little bit easier. That's right. It's a distinguished gentleman. That's right. It's a bit. That's the difference between crazy and eccentric. Eccentrics are just crazy people who are rich. Is one of the things I was once told. So there you go. So while we look at the mining gadget,
what number is it? It's number 4. There we go. All right, and then you.
No, Freelancer, I cannot do a backflip.
There we go.
I'll kill myself.
And so you gotta. Yep. Don't tell me it's already. What? It was like perfectly activated as soon as I put it on. So normally you gotta move these backwards and forwards.
But it did it automatically because it was
91%. Wow. Okay. So yeah, as a little fit and pumps all that
and the
stuff.
green light telling you it's ready. So
yeah. It's probably because this rock was already able to be mined, so it wasn't really one I should have used it on. But yeah.
And if it wasn't aligned, it would have been red, I believe.
Yeah, there was a little red on the resistance. That's why I kind of picked this one. But But yeah, there's nothing too special about it. You can destroy them if you shoot your laser over them. You can also position them on weak points on the rock to get better placement of them. But they are reusable if you can go down and salvage them. So hopefully that doesn't... Hopefully that one lands in such a way that I can...
So you can go get your rock back, your gadget back.
Yeah.
So while we're doing that, I'll look at the next few questions and chuck them up so we can keep talking. So I've already answered back question, which was, can I do a black flip? Can either of you guys do a back flip?
No. I can do a barrel roll though.
Jack Raven says, I have a freelancer miss. Do you think it will be able to store missiles in the cargo bay and rearm my launchers from stored missiles anytime soon? Certainly the internal launcher would... I got the impression that's what they intended for that, so I'd love to see that. So yeah, but anytime soon, well, it will be soon, based on the usual use of Star Citizens soon, which could be any time from now to eternity. Your thoughts on any time soon for being able to reload your freelancer miss, or for that matter your
It's when missiles come in and they make them part of the cargo. Will it be part of the initial cargo refactor? I'd probably say probably not.
Yeah.
I imagine on the list of priorities, it's extremely near the bottom.
Yeah.
Yep. But that'll be the same for the Constellation, Andromeda, and currently Quilla, and also the Taurus, which can have both an internal launcher or size 2 missiles. So
I'd say because the green... Is that it there? I'd say because the green light is not working. Yeah, that looks like it there. I'd say because the green light's not flashing anymore, it's probably dead.
yeah, I did see it go red when it fell on the floor, but then I think one of the boulders landed on top of it.
It's in there somewhere.
I thought you were supposed to get an icon on it so you could find it easier.
I'm not too sure. I'll try cracking that one down and see if we can get it back after I've cracked it one more layer.
Yep. In answer to your follow-up question, Shadow Girl, have you tried mining a rock with all 6 different gadgets active at the same time? No, but it might be fun to try.
It might be.
Would they not just cancel each other out?
Don't know.
I don't know. That's why it's interesting.
That's one of the things that's worth questioning and asking.
What?
So, Shadow Girl, with freelancer, can you do a backflip? Jack Raven. That was a freelance question. Star has a question. Mornstar says, does the freelancer still have a refinery in it?
Yeah, I've heard a couple of people say that, but I don't remember it having a refinery. I just remember it having a fuel scoop.
I just remember it having a fuel scoop and expanded tanks.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And back then, the fuel scoop was useful for scooping up hydrogen to enable you to do maneuver rather than anything else. But I don't remember it having a refinery. I think a lot of people have adopted it having a refinery because it was a mist ship, and the small mist ships have that's Origin have their technology. So I don't know whether they will or won't.
Just want to point out, I don't care what these rocks are. I'm just trying to pick them up so I can see if I can actually get the thing back. So yeah, these are all garbage, I know.
So yeah, the next question, I did miss a question. Oh no, I haven't missed a question. Sorry. So I don't know about the door. Sorry, and I'm not sure any of us know that to be honest. Shadow Girl did that question. Sorry, Shadow Girl. Jason Serif says, what's the largest info on med beds in terms of tier 2 beds keeping or losing respawn feature?
Latest was they do have it. It's tier 3s that don't have it.
Yep. So the tier 3s, the ones that are at the lowest level, don't have the respawn feature. So those in the cutlass red. The tier 2s and tier 1s do. I expect the trauma 1 stations will enable you to do the whole gamut of medical stuff. Tier 2 would be most, but if I was a betting man, I'd say that I would expect that tier 2 beds probably will end up losing it. But how? But that's because I don't know where medicine's going. But then if they do remove it from those, the question is, if you remove it from those, what makes them different from a tier 3 bed? And if you keep it in, what makes a tier 1 bed so much better than a tier 2? And it may even come down to just the ability to have a more clear imprint of the signal, or the copy that's being used, so less chance of errors.
So Algared, I think unfortunately it's gone.
Yep, I have a
We
feeling
lost
it's gone. It got crushed by the rock. So yeah, a good question, but I don't think we know. I don't think we know the answer. In that question, Jason. So, ridiculous thing. Sorry, I just had to try and read your name and get my tongue around it. Ridiculous thing has a question. They say, do you think there will be anything past medium mole-sized refining ship? Since the Orion mines and refines, how much bigger, better do you think ground-based operations could be? I have a feeling that might be something you cover in the video that you guys did. So look out for the refining point of view video that Execute did with a couple of guys who are to refining and the real world, and see what they come up with.
Any more questions, Algared?
Just passing this one to be... No, that should be fine. I think it should be there now. Okay, so the next couple of questions, we've got one from Shadow Girl. And it was held for review, but I don't know why it's been held for review. She says, not crushed. Pushed through, probably falling to the center of the moon, where the gadget will remain until the server eventually crashes. Yes. Windlord has a question. They have a question that is it likely that ships like the Sen get some form of crafting components? And that was one of the things I suggested.
When we first looked at that, we thought it was an analysis tool for the Endeavour, didn't we? Because it had it has the sampler thing on board, so it goes down to a planet and it grabs samples for the Endeavour.
Yep. So it could be a sampling machine, but depending on how they do, what's the advantage of science? If science enables you to make components, or they're used for mining or refining, then yes, a Sen would be the type of ship would do that. So. But that would be the limit of it, I think. That'll be the first. It's just starter science ship. As Execute also said. And that is our last question.
All right then. Well, if there's any more questions soon, we'll wrap it up. It's a little bit early.
Yep.
It's about 12 minutes early, but yeah, I'll start heading back to I don't know.
Okay, so Shadow Girl has another question.
Yep.
She says, we all know Algared loves Origin ships since they are great ships. But which Origin ships does Execute like best?
We did actually do an episode on this, didn't we?
You did actually talk about ships you like best, but of the Origin line. But which of the 2 Origin ships I think you like best? I think there are 2, aren't there?
So looks wise, as in like the internals and them actually starting to nail down the luxury, the 400i is one of the better ones they've done. Like, I think they're actually starting to figure out what luxury is. 890 jump's pretty good as well with what it does, but it still doesn't do quite enough. And I think since I did that episode, Algared, the banner merch events come out, and I think you can clearly see how I feel on that now. And what
Jump has got a sauna though.
Yeah, but what I've been talking about is it just doesn't have enough gameplay to support its price. And that was my whole thing. I just needed more gameplay. And then I guess I'm a little bit tickled by the 600i as well with that medbed. I think that's going to be a unique thing. But again, like, it almost feels like they're having to give it stuff to justify its existence. But like in any game, you have sinkholes or money pits or whatever that you know, for people that have just earned way too much money, and that is what Origin is. It is showing off that you've just got more money than sense.
But I think in terms of the 600i, that medbed is only for the 600i Explorer module version.
Yeah.
So that is certainly something that's different.
To give it the, you know, long range approach like the Carrack, and that's it. That makes sense.
And for a long, you know, and any ship that's supposed to be long range really should have some form of medbed, whether it's a tier 3, whether it's a tier 2, whether it's a tier 1. But they certainly need some form of medbed to help keep you alive.
I'd love to see like tier 3 medbeds in the Corsair as an example, just for, you know. I can't quite afford tier 2, but here you go, have some Shambly tier 3s.
I'd rather see a quality, because it's Drake, you know, a first aid thing on the wall which you could actually interact with, you know.
They do have those in the Caterpillar, funnily enough.
They do have those in the Reclaimer as well. You just can't interact with them yet. So because people wanted us to stay around a few more minutes, we do have a few more questions that popped in. I'm surprised you didn't mention the 325A, which I thought was one of your...
So I'm going to be honest. I would mention that, like, the 325A and the 315P are massive outliers compared to the rest of them, right? And I would now say I favour the 315P because of that utility mount, like where utility mounts are going, and just realising how some cargo ships are literally just cargo ships. Like, look at the Holsters; they've got no tractor beams. They can't do any space pickups or anything, you know. So they're almost like, it's almost like a person with no hands. They can carry stuff with their teeth, but they can't do anything, you know. And then as soon as you put a tractor beam on them, they can pick more stuff up, you know. So sorry for the weird visual there of talking about people with no hands, but you get what I'm trying to talk about. So
the 315P with that size, what, 3 mount?
It's the only ship. I think the next closest is the Nomad, and that's the only thing the Nomad has.
I think it's certainly the smallest ship that's got a size 3 utility mount. I could be wrong, but
I think you are correct.
It's certainly a pretty big one.
Funny thing is though, what's the smaller ones? You know, like a size 1. But apparently back in the day, do you remember back in the day that they were saying that you could actually just put tractor beam, or like the tractor beams could go on gun ports?
Yep.
So that maybe that's like when you get to size 3, that's the first size that's non-gun size. Maybe.
Yeah. But they also talked about, I wonder how much that's changed in terms of the piping and power circuits as well. So, and even the mounts that support those tractor beams. So
100%.
That was years ago. So we all know in development things change. So, yeah, who knows? So, Shem Pastor says, is the 890 jump a capital ship? And if not, will Origin create a capital ship? The 890 jump is a capital ship. CIG's general definition of whether a ship's a capital ship or not is whether it's got capital components. And the 890 jump has capital shields, I think, and capital power plant.
Capital engines. Those engines are bespoke. So to give an example, that's why technically why the Reclaimers are capital, because it has bespoke power plant. It's got a bespoke power plant. That can't be changed.
I'm personally of the opinion that the 890 jump shouldn't be classed as a capital ship. However, it does have the capital components, and also its AI class. It is for AI controlling it. It is classed as a capital ship in the way the AI handles it.
And it's like an oligarch's yacht. You know, you look at some of those yachts that have been You see the oligarchs have. Yeah, but they're massive. They are basically, the size of a small destroyer or a small warship. So, and some of them are massive. So, do you count them as capital ships? Well, CIG do. They're just civilian. It is certainly one of the things with the 890 jump that does make it special is the fact that it is key to be able to be flown with a very small crew, and function as well as other ships. So it's certainly, if I understand correctly, the largest ship that can run with the smallest crew, and that's probably the key. And it's also supposed to be the fastest ship for its size. What they mean by that? Yeah, kind of like Bezos' CPO. That's right. So Lonix Leaf says, by the time Pyro comes out, do you guys expect to be able to fully live on our ships, including logging in and out? Well, you can sometimes do that now. If you get into,
I've been doing that on my 400i recently.
I believe if you end up on the same server or at least the same branch, it often does allow you to do that. At least it used to do that, and I think it's becoming more and more certainly easier to do that. So, so yes, I expect that will probably be a thing, and as the game goes forward, it's only going to come better.
Damn!
This is Execute, showing that he has trouble landing. Have you been drinking?
No, I haven't had any trouble landing. It was my camera again.
Ah.
Okay.
And it just looked like the ship went funny as you said that, so...
No, it was auto land. That was auto landing.
Ah. So what are your thoughts? Do you expect that to be a case, X and Pickles, in terms of logging in and out?
Well, I think you can kind of already do it now.
Yeah, I've been doing it at least to the best of my ability.
What would you say? I'd say kind of food storage. So some of the survivability options probably need to be a bit more there to make it a bit more regular. But I think they're like if you can just have food as in a cargo crate in your cargo grid
that you can access,
then you're fine. So that could be the most basic level of it. Once that's in, then you could probably do it more regularly, so you don't have to come from a landing zone every time.
Certainly, one of the things that made the Redeemer nice, wasn't it? The full
food.
fridge.
Yep.
Free food each time you respawn it. Free food and drink. Which enables you to stay out a bit longer.
Whenever I went into a mate's Redeemer, I'd stole the beer out of the fridge.
That's where they all went.
I do remember the time we got on the Redeemer and where's all the food and drink on?
Yeah.
Because someone had stolen it on you. So now we know who it was. You dobbed yourself in, Pickles.
Oh no, I was open about it from the start.
Yeah, don't just wait till they get the Uber Space Eats app, and then you're in trouble.
That beer's mine.
So Bruce Fox Fontenot has another question. He says, what do you think about me buying a Prospector, Expanse, Liberator, Nomad, and a Rock to have a complete solo mining gameplay?
That's what you want to do. You go do that.
You want to do that, that's fine, but the second you go each of those ships, you no longer got a complete solo gameplay. It's because to have them all, you need to have other people using
and
them.
What's the better value too? Just getting one big ship and using that to earn them all fairly quickly. I'd agree. I'd say that's the better bang for buck.
But the question then is, can you do the bigger ship solo?
Yeah. So you got now versus release type of thing.
Yeah, now versus release, and also what you're going to be comfortable doing. Gaming with, and how many people you intend to game with. And is
mining your primary profession, or is it cargo running? Like what is your primary, or refining? So I'd almost argue you're better to get one big ship for the primary profession you want and use that to quickly earn everything underneath. But again, you can plan for that. So you could say have your Prospector with a CCU chain up to whatever that ship is. Or CCUs in place, and you melt off some of the ships so you can turn it into that one big ship. So that gives you your now that allows you to play with your Prospect, your Expanse, and the other couple of ships you mentioned, and then just roll that all into one big ship afterwards.
Now, if you do have the when the Liberators in game, you could land the Expanse and the Prospector on top of it. You could possibly get the Nomad in there and the Rock in there, and then as you spawn out that ship, the others are spawned out and kept there persistently as well.
And what about the next carrier that comes along that hasn't been mentioned?
Yep.
You know, we know more are coming. That's just a light carrier. Where's the medium carrier?
Well, in terms of being a solo ship, I can see that working, and then you could take that ship, and because it's spawned, you could then take that ship and get, you know, park it, get one of your other ships, do the thing, bring it back, offload, do the other stuff, and but to me it just seems a very roundabout way. It's the difference between I think it shows the difference between the Prospector and the Mole. The Mole is a great ship, but you've got 3 people who are with you, but as a solo ship, it's kind of sucky against the Prospector, based on what the mining guys seem to say. Like John Citizen, who was on earlier, you know, he loves his Prospector, and that's his go-to mining ship, and he does mining all the time.
But even he gets the concept of earn down.
Yeah.
So he recently kind of rolled all his stuff into bigger ships as well. Took us 2.5 months to get him to understand the thing, but once he understood what we were trying to say and save him a lot of money, he's done that, and now he's got loaners of the Prospector. That's one of the biggest advantages. Like, if you have an Orion, right now you actually have a Mole and a Prospector in game. So you can try them all out and play with all their gameplay and awesomeness, and then all of a sudden the new thing in the block comes out, the Orion, bang. You got that to play with.
So it's not just as in all honesty, Bruce. It's a lot harder to just say yes or no. Chuck that under what we did last time, Algared, and just if he wants the tailored advice, come and seek us out, and if you want to,
we'll do that.
If you want to, if you do want to go into more depth on that and look at all the ins and outs, then jump into our channel, go into our Fix My Fleet, or just message us individually. If you go into the Fix My Fleet channel, you can message us. We'll go there. You'll also get other people who will come and answer those questions a bit as well. So, and help you
get multiple opinions
for those questions. And so, it's not the hard. As I'm trying to say, it's not just a yes or no question. On the surface, it looks like it is, but once you start digging down as to what it is you're trying to do, or why you're trying to do it, or how you're trying to do it.
And we are looking for people for Fix My Fleets at the moment, aren't we? Because of Invictus is coming up in less than a month now. So we are looking for people like that as well. So
we're keen to do a couple of Fix My Fleets and look at that. So,
Algared, I'm warping to OEM 4.
Yeah.
Of Hurston.
You're going to the Harry and Bell.
No. Like, look, it somehow look. I'm walking from R-Corp to Hurston, but it didn't select Hurston. It selected OEM 4. There's a bug.
Yeah. You made an error. It obviously picked up a different one, but yes, you've got issues there. That's life. Suck it up, princess. Windlord has a question. Why don't CIG consider delaying in-game events over pushing unfinished version patches? I think the answer to that is very simple, Windlord. If it was a closed door development, they would be doing.
Yeah, agreed.
Focusing on the thing. But there's that element of, because it's open development and because we're here, in a sense, testing as well, but they also want us to be able to play the game and enjoy the game. And so, because of that, they chuck in those events, and those events that we're heading, those things like Xeno's Threat and Ninetales and Jumptown, those events are actually testing those dynamic events as well. So it's not as if it's not delaying that, it's actually doing stuff that gives us things to do now, but it's also mapping out what they can do and actually getting that process.
So someone called Windlord just said there would be no in-game events if it was closed door. It's even worse than that. There would be no PU. None. Just absolutely none. Because there'd be no reason to release it. If people doesn't know it exists, they'll just work on the game until it's done and
Yep.
pop it out.
And that's the question we were actually answering, Winlord's question.
Oh well, he asked.
So-
He made a statement in chat, so I was just.
Okay. So he was following up his question. So
Yep.
I didn't show up in the question tab, so I missed it. So
It's all good.
I've got chat on one side, questions on the other side. So I'm trying to pick up. If I'm just trying to look at the questions and see what's next, I grab the left side.
I don't even have the questions up anymore. I've got stream,
You've got the game up.
game, and chat and analytics.
Yep.
I don't even
Yep.
have. I don't have a room for chat.
So that's okay because I'm doing the questions, so you don't need to worry.
I need a full screen, just for questions. Anyway.
Yeah, well,
Don't get me started. I've got no more room. I don't think I could put another screen in here. Also, gonna go like
Yep.
full vertical, like right above my head, and I'm gonna go like this.
Yeah. So let's see. Shadow Girl has another question for us. Do you like support the idea of adding player drug use into the game? We already have player drug use in the game in medicines. Do I think CIG will limit that? I expect they will, mainly because
Different countries don't like drug use.
but also just because it is in many ways a rated G game. It is a game that
Yeah.
they do see kids being able to play. How do we know that? Because they play it with their kids. You know, Chris and Sandy play it with their kids. And so, and it's not, you know, and yeah, and you'll pick up an element of this in the next episode, but they are protective parents. They want to look after their kids and do what's best for them.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd agree with that.
you
I think
know,
most
so-
parents are like that. That's not unique
Yeah.
to anyone.
No, it's just normal parenting type thing. But you certainly see an example of that come out in one of the accounts that Sandy tells us
Yeah. that's true.
in the next episode or the next part of the interview. So I don't think it will. A bit like you know, nudity. I don't think we'll see just because of the same reason.
Yep.
And often, and sadly, you know, you look at a lot of games and a lot of movies these days, and you know, there'll often be the gratuitous sex scene in a movie because we've got to have it, and it doesn't really add anything to the movie. It's just there for the gratuitous sex scene, or gratuitous violence, or gratuitous drug use, or whatever. And if it doesn't really add to the character or the situation or anything else, then
I think that's the oldest I've ever heard you sound, Algared. Just then, that statement. Mate, not so much anymore. Like, I actually think a lot of that has been removed quite a bit in the last 10 years, honestly. But I do get your point.
But you still, you know, you still see a lot of it in movies. Whereas the better movies are often you get so much more hint there without going there.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so it's me showing I'm old, me showing I'm probably principled and got morals and ethics and.
You're used to
probably
dealing with
different from a lot
kids.
of other
You're putting on
people,
you're putting on your school teacher's hat there.
I probably am putting on my school. Well, I am in my school teacher garb, so yeah, probably. So I hope that answers that question for you, Shadow Girl. Shrimpasta Inforunners has mentioned the question. Inforunners has mentioned